So we're good. We'll just no more intro. We'll just no more intro. We'll
No more.
forget the intro. Look, the intro's nice.
Bye-bye.
Did you know this intro
Wow.
I made? Well, I cobbled it together. Really, all the footage was captured by our friend Rick. He recorded this stuff. That's why it's so nice, because he's better at that than I am. But that's all good. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Hylian Gamescast. This is episode 160, the big 160, which means we're only 9 away, or maybe we're 99 away. Anyways, my name is Daniel, aka 𝗵𝗃 I'm joined by the Game Over guy himself, live from my basement. Say hello, Jesse.
Hi!
He did not shave.
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say before I get spanked.
You know exactly how much. You know exactly. And we're also joined by 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗀, who is being sat on by 𝗍𝗵𝗲.
Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
And also, if you're in the live chat watching this, please tell me how the audio is, and if it's trash, or if things are stuttery, or if someone sounds like a robot man or something. But we have a couple of fun pieces of news to discuss, including a Game Jam indie game developed by 2 people that is actually just Link's Awakening, but not Link's Awakening, and some Twilight Princess statements made by the people who made Twilight Princess HD, saying they're not making another Twilight Princess HD, but that doesn't mean that they're not making another Twilight Princess HD. And then we'll go back to our classic Zelda dungeon tier list topic, which people seem to love so much because they like it when Jesse and I disagree about things. And then we'll end things off with the Zelda mailbag. And people are saying audio's good. Excellent. Excellent. But first, before we jump into all that fun stuff, how's everyone doing? How are we doing today? Kayla, Jesse.
I mean, I could use some fresh air. There's no windows down here.
Denied. No fresh air for Jesse.
None fresh air left beef.
It's against the rules, actually. It's not allowed. Kayla, how about you? How are ya? How's things?
Good. Things are good. I've been really busy, and I'm sorry about that. I missed some streaming. I was on a roll. I was streaming for a couple weeks in a row, and then life happened.
That's
Somehow
at least
I work 2 part-time jobs, and I'm still the busiest person in the world.
At least you beat Tunic before you fell off. So...
I sure did.
Which is great, because not only did you beat the game, which was pretty hard, but you also beat a game, which you never do, so...
I would like to thank me and 𝗏𝗏 for this achievement.
Yes.
I find that anytime anything happens that's positive or negative, I can thank 𝗏𝗏 and it'll be correct.
Yeah, actually. 𝗏𝗏
Like,
also
if
orchestrated...
I make a decent grilled cheese or a burnt grilled cheese,
I like a good grilled cheese.
both are 𝗏𝗏's fault.
Oh, okay. 𝗏𝗏 also orchestrated some what the whole burger gang collectively called Burger Bingo for my streams. Apparently, I'm just like super predictable about the things I say while streaming, and so, you know, they someone actually got a bingo. So it was a little upsetting, but also hilarious. But mostly hilarious, actually. But yeah, it was a fun time. But yes, let's jump into the news, shall we? Because this podcast, that's what we're doing. So
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the video I sent you about Dysplaced? It's a video game.
I didn't, but then I was like, I should probably watch this before we do the podcast so I know what we're talking about.
Oh,
and
no.
I clicked on it, and it opened, and it was like, if you're gonna rip anything off, you gotta rip it off from the best, or
That's
something
true.
like that. And it was basically me looking at that game that is also that game.
Yes.
I don't know if you were wanting to start with that piece of news, so that's why I'm
that was the one I was going into. So if people are wondering why we put Zelda clone in the YouTube title, in the stream title, the episode title, it's the Zelda clone is a game being developed at a game jam, it seems. And it's got actually a very small development team. I might be wrong about this. I think it's only 2 people making that, which is technically impressive from a technical standpoint. But the game is basically Link's Awakening. So, like, it's so eerily similar that, like, at a glance, most people I've shown it to, at a glance, they're like, I thought it just was Link's Awakening or a Link's Awakening mod. But then if you actually start examining the finer details, you're like, okay, no, these are not stolen or ripped assets. They're actually unique built assets. They're just inspired is not a powerful enough word. Neither is derivative. It's just like, yeah, they really were shameless about copying the art style. Which
would you say it is similar to Genshin Impact and Breath of the Wild?
No, because Genshin Impact was more. This was more similar. Like, this is like you could put screenshots like side by side and you'd think it's the same game. Like Genshin and Genshin Impact, sorry, at least had some. I never played it, but from what I've seen of it online, at least it had some original ideas in it. It does some stuff different from Breath of the Wild. This is like it's just like Link's Awakening, basically. Like, now I'll say I really love the art style personally. I think it's super cute. I think it's very charming. I also don't have an issue with Zelda clones or people like ripping off Zelda or whatever. Some great games have been Zelda clones. We reviewed Blossom Tales on this channel. That was a great Zelda clone. Tunic is another. It's not a Zelda clone per se, but like it's a Zelda inspired game. There have also been plenty of other indie games that have been inspired by other Metroid IPs. Axiom Verge might as well have been a Metroid game, for example, but none of them have so blatantly looked like it was just the same game as much as this one has. Do you know what I mean? Like, it very much looks like it's just the same. It just looks like Link's Awakening. It doesn't look like inspired. It just looks like it is Link's Awakening, and they swapped out the protagonist. Even the way he moves and the way his sword swipes. Even I noticed the in-game font they use is the same font. Now, Nintendo doesn't actually own that font, technically. They license it. I guess I have looked into this. But still, weird that they use the same font for their in-game text. Like, yeah. So it's really interesting.
Developer?
Who's the developer? It's like 2 guys. It's just it's an indie game. It's not like a studio that's going like in on this, right? It is supposed to come out on PlayStation and Xbox, not Nintendo though. And I wonder if part of the reason for that is they're like trying to avoid the Nintendo ninjas, you know? Maybe. Yeah.
Those do exist.
They do exist. Their Nintendo ninjas are real. So
They have contacted one of us in the past.
Gasp.
Look at.
Gasp. So, do you guys... I've rambled a bit about this, but do you guys have any thoughts about Dysplaced? Or it's just anything you've seen about it? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I didn't even have to watch it to really understand that that's exactly it. Like, it's taking the magic of the remake for Link's Awakening, and it has basically put that magic inside of this new game, Link's Awakening 2, Electric Boogaloo. And, yeah, I don't know, like, I'm torn. I feel like it is such a dangerous move to make such a look-alike game, especially when it comes to Nintendo and putting it on other consoles. But you know what? I think it's really cool that these 2 people built this from the ground up. That's the part that we're missing from this. That's freaking cool.
That's a good point. Like, it is, from a technical standpoint, kind of impressive that, like, a couple people were able to accomplish what pretty much it took a whole team at Grezzo to do. And this was, like, a game jam game as well. So it was, like, they were basically doing it for, like, a contest, right?
Yeah.
Not, and then they're like, yeah, we're actually going to make this game as well. So that's cool. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know, wild. how derivative it is. I'm not mad about it, but I've seen people on Twitter that are like angry and they're like, Nintendo's gonna sue them and they deserve it. And I'm like, well, you know, Nintendo, you can't copyright an art style technically. And they are original assets. They're in fact even like they're a little less, only a little. Like I would only know comparing side by side, but doing side by side comparisons of screenshots, it's a little bit less detailed than Link's Awakening. A little, but yeah, it is definitely like unique assets. It just doesn't seem like it's
Do you know what engine it is using?
No, that I do not know.
No.
That it wasn't set, or not that I found. It does seem to have like the Zelda structure though. Like it has dungeons, it seems like, from the video that I saw. And yeah, so and the overworld just seems like a very similar overworld structure to Link's Awakening. So we'll see. They even seem to draw some inspiration from Breath of the Wild's physics they showed like in the video some fire, like grass catching on fire and then the fire spreading, which is interesting. So it's just more Zelda inspiration, I guess, sprinkled on top of the Zelda inspiration.
Where did this come from, though? Because I haven't really noticed it anywhere. The only place that I noticed it was you posting it in our Discord. So is this something that you just like stumbled upon on Twitter? Did you have someone else on Twitter that like brought this to light?
IGN shared it.
Oh.
They did a whole like spotlight video on it for Rogue Jam. So
okay, so like, did you see it on IGN's YouTube or did you see it on their Twitter?
On their Twitter, but it is also on their YouTube as well. I checked, so yeah, it's just really wild, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just always interested in that part because like I follow a lot of content creators, so most of the games I hear about, I hear from content creators, not so much like actual news sources. So
that's fair. That's fair. I get probably. I mean, you know, people will say what they will about Twitter, but my belief has always been like social media is just what you make of it, right? So like I go on Twitter all the time because it's basically like my gaming news source, because the people I follow on Twitter are basically the people I know and gaming news sources. So like IGN or other websites and stuff. So yeah, I get a lot of info off the old Twitter. But sometimes there are some pretty volatile bad takes. I will grant you that. But you know, that's everywhere. That's not exclusive. Twitter didn't invent poor manners. So...
No, that was EGM in the 1990s.
Oh my god.
That's correct. Yes. Yes. Jesse, do you have any final thoughts about this one?
No.
Did you watch the video I sent you, Jesse?
Can I say yes and then tell you no later?
My man's over here trying to run a show.
I seen this screenshot and I was like, yeah, that looks like a Zelda clone.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta see the video with the gameplay in action to really get the full perspective of how much of a Zelda clone it is. I think they might... Nintendo notoriously uses like licensed sound libraries as well. So a lot of like sound effects in Zelda games are kind of just like generic sound effects that you can find and license and use. And I think that they used some of those as well. Like some of the sound effects I think are the same ones that they used in Link's Awakening too. So it's weird. It's super weird, but it is what it is. It what it is.
I will agree like 85% on that.
85 you'll agree 85% that Nintendo uses licensed sound libraries? or which...
No, I 100% that they use them, but for all of their sound effects, I'll agree 85%.
Oh god, I understand now. I understand. Yeah, no, I'm not saying every sound effect Nintendo uses is a licensed one or from an audio library. Absolutely. Like, actually, ironically, most of all games, most of Animal Crossing's are not. It's mostly Foley work, which is interesting. And I actually saw a video that was talking about Animal Crossing, and the first game, it's like for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Foley work is when you want to say record sounds for something, a video game or movie or something, and say the sound effect is like someone walking on sand, like at a beach. So you'll get in like a recording studio and you'll like make sounds, like you'll get like a thing of sand and you'll make sounds in the sand to use for that, right? You're just recording sounds to insert into a thing. That's Foley work. But Foley work is done in a studio. For the first game, the sound designer actually like went out and like recorded stuff like out and about in the world. So like for walking on the beach, dude actually went to the beach and recorded himself walking on the beach for the first Animal Crossing game. It's just like weird. You just like don't get that anymore. So super weird stuff, but it's pretty cool.
No,
that's
that's so cool.
It's dedication.
So what if I said for the gibberish of like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, the gibberish from like Midna and 𝗙
Oh, it's English.
and Animal Crossing? What if I said they should have just like licensed the Sims soundtrack?
No.
No.
For Midna specifically, though,
gibberish English.
For Midna specifically, they actually had a Japanese voice actor record sentences in English, and then they took all the English syllables and scrambled them to make Midna's voice.
Amazing.
So you can unscramble them, and there's like sentences that actually make sense too. Like they're not just random.
Oh,
they're like
really
there's
cool.
one where she's like talks about being able to teleport you, and I'm like, I wonder how, how into this idea they were. Also, we got a super chat from Taker610, the king of super chats.
I could have guessed.
You could have guessed. So they're asking about Saudi Arabia bought 5% share in Nintendo stocks. I don't think that's gonna affect anything in game development itself. It's just an investment thing. We're not gonna get into that. But their other question is, do we get a title for Breath of the Wild 2 at June Direct? Do you think so?
A title?
I really hope so, but I could never say with certainty. But if it's coming out in spring.
No, because they're saying that when they release the title, we're gonna know a lot more about what this game is gonna be about.
Unless that was just Bill Trinan just giving PR fluff and just avoiding the question.
Maybe. And now when they release the title, we're all gonna really overthink it.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna be like, everyone's gonna be tweeting at Bill Trinan. They're gonna be like, what the hell does this mean? What does this tell us about the story?
Cryptic, what's it? Jesse, what's your problem?
Jesse, are you okay? Jesse, are you okay?
I'm still laughing at an article I read earlier.
Oh, okay. I don't.
Do we want to know which article?
Is this something you need to share with the class, or should we move on?
Probably not. But
All right.
I'll get you guys after the podcast.
All right. All right. Sounds good. But yeah,
I will say it pertains to Mario Kart.
To Mario Kart specifically?
And the thing you just said.
Okay.
Something that maybe belongs in my lewd dungeon. You know what? I'm going to stop talking. What's the next thing we're talking about?
Next topic. All right. Well, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Appreciate that so much. Now that Jesse is no longer broken, we'll move on. The next topic is actually one that Jesse already made a video about, but I still wanted to talk about it on the podcast, which is Twilight Princess HD. Now, this is not, just to preface any of this conversational topic, this is not us rumor mongering or saying it's definitely coming to Switch. That is not what we're saying. Just putting that out there. But we're also not saying it's not coming to Switch. So the news part of this is the CEO, I think it was, of Tantalus was interviewed recently and was asked if Twilight Princess HD would come to Switch or if they were working on it. And he basically gave the PR answer of like, oh, well, we'd love to do it, but Nintendo has not approached us about it. And so, you know, he talked a little bit about development stuff. Anyway, so he said that. He said, we'd love to, but Nintendo hasn't asked us to. And everyone online, lots of people were like, well, that shoots every Twilight Princess rumor down. I guess it's not happening. Except that everyone seems to have magically forgotten that NDAs exist. Because what it comes down to is, if Tantalus is not working on Twilight Princess HD, then he answered honestly, no, it's not coming to Switch. If Tantalus is working on Twilight Princess HD Switch port, they would be under NDA. The game is not announced. He would not be allowed, legally not be allowed to say yes. So of course he's going to say no and lie about it. So essentially, the answer means nothing. It means nothing. If he says yes or if he says yes, then great, that means something. But if he says no, it could still be yes. And Nintendo, as Jesse says in his video, which by the way you guys should all watch, it's great. He goes out quite into detail about it. It's very good. Nintendo has a history of this. All companies have a history of this. Like Spider-Man was a recent example. They edit stuff out of the trailer to keep surprises. They aren't ready to talk about certain things. You have people in interviews denying being involved in the movie. Andrew Garfield. And Majora's Mask 3D, Nintendo was asked about repeatedly and denied its existence until, you know what, it got announced and then it came out. And it was in development for 4 years. Skyward Sword HD, they were asked about repeatedly and denied. And then guess what game we got? Skyward Sword HD, etc., 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 etc. So, not saying that no, his answer of no means yes, but it doesn't actually mean no either, because if it was a yes, he can't talk about it. So, just that's like a bit of clarification for everyone, really. So, but Jesse, since you're the well-educated, researched man on this. Care to add any thoughts to this? Then and quiet, even though you're the most knowledgeable one, I think, on this particular topic. Tell us about this some more. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are he did everything he is legally required to do, Mr. Tom. I actually found his email. Sent an email, asked for an interview, did not get a reply. But that could be for many, many reasons. Mostly that we are known for saying things that Nintendo has not announced yet, and contributing to other possible rumors. And for the most part, yeah. It is we had something we can say. We had some of the people after Breath of the Wild released, before Age of Calamity released, we asked them if they were going to be reprising their roles in any future games, and all of the people that we had on said no. Even though a month or two later, or a few months later, whenever the games came out, Age of Calamity released, and it turns out they were in those games, but they still said no, and they explained, hey, we're under a legal contract, we cannot say yes or no, even if we are in the game, and it is obvious, we are still not allowed to say no or yes, unless it releases that the company who hires them, which in this case, even though Tantalus would be hired by Nintendo, Tantalus still cannot say yes or no unless it is Nintendo who officially announces it. So even when the trailer does come out for Breath of the Wild 2 and you hear Patricia or anyone who else was in Breath of the Wild 1 or Age of Calamity, they cannot say yes or no until Nintendo tells them to. And there was one interview with Sean or Joe that we had where one of them mentioned that even if the game does release, they still cannot say yes or no unless their name is in the credits if the company has not said they could announce anything. So even if you hear their voice, it's identical to the voice they played in the previous game. And from all facts that we can conclude, they are in the game. They legally cannot say they are unless the company tells them they're free to say they are. So, yeah, it basically boils down to why would you ask in any situation when you know the answer you're going to get is a no? Unless you're lucky in interviewing one of the Spanish or Italian voice actors.
Apparently they have no no regard for these things. Well put. I will say that, yeah, like, we've had voice actors. We've had we have Patricia herself. We had Joe, Sean, and Andy Gibson, who plays Impa. We've had all them on, and like we would never even ask them a question about like an unreleased or upcoming or unannounced game or anything like that, because all that's going to do is put them in an awkward spot where they can't really say, they can't even answer the question honestly, and then they're gonna not want to ever work with us again because we put them in that awkward situation. It's just a great way to destroy your credibility. But the other thing I wanted to say is that we got a super chat from Midnight Naomi, aka SOBERX, for $20. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
I found out their real username. So they've been a Patreon supporter for like a year or longer.
Yeah.
I found out their real username on your last podcast stream.
Oh, SilverX, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have, that's just how it is. Sometimes people on different platforms have different usernames, so. But it's good to know. It's actually kind of always funny when that happens, when you're like, oh, you're the same person. Like, it's like an oh moment. You recognize both usernames, but don't connect the dots there. So there could be so many people hiding among us that are secretly the same person twice, like Geek and Chew.
Like Daniel and Burger.
Like,
Oh.
Who? Huh?
Oh no.
Oh no. Exposed.
Well, it's like Joseph saying your real name in the chat. I'm like, I'm sorry, I only know who Daniel Bergerson is. I don't know that other name.
Right? I don't keep my name like a secret by any means, but like, like there is a part of me that's almost like, oh, it's kind of weird to see it because I'm so used to going by my username, by Bergersons. Yep. Yeah, but Tube, on this Twilight Princess topic, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
Same boat as Jesse, actually. I just think that the way that these interviewers are asking questions isn't done tactfully at all. Like, exactly. Like, why would you ask such a yes or no question knowing the answer given an NDA? Like, I'm sure that I hope that these people are having conversations with them before they do the interview, basically saying, hey, I can't talk about this, this, or this. Can we avoid it? And I'm not sure if maybe that's something that, we reach out and we ask, like, hey, like, are there topics we should be avoiding?
It is.
Right? Like, I think that's the thing that people are really missing. So yeah, like you guys said, of course it's gonna be no. They literally can't answer any other way.
Even like Aonuma and Miyamoto can't answer that question, honestly. No. Like, even they are under those NDAs. They probably, they probably wrote those NDAs. So it's like, yeah. And in fact, a bit of a tangent as well is my stepdad. He actually is a software developer, and what he does now, I don't entirely have my brain wrapped around because I'm not the smart man. But
he works for Nintendo. Give us the spill.
I don't know what you said, but anyways, he worked for several years actually in game development at a small studio, and nothing like superbly amazing, but he did like develop some work for, like, there was like a snowboarding game on Wii that I don't remember what it's called, but he did like the snow particles for it, and he was very proud of it. So like stuff like that. So anyway, this isn't my uncle works at Nintendo. This is my stepdad works at a very small game studio that did some obscure snowboarding game in 2008. But even a game like that, like he would come home, his wife, his stepchildren, he could not talk about it to us. Like, because those NDAs exist, he couldn't come home and be like, oh yeah, I was working on this game, blah, blah. It wasn't until after the game was published and he was in the credits that he brought it home. He's like, this was the game I was making. And so, like throughout the time he was working there, he to his own family, he's not allowed to tell us about this game because NDAs. So why would you interview someone and think that you're going to get some super amazing answer or some big headliner out of them? Like, yeah. NDA. Yep. NDA. So.
Yep.
And Nintendo lies. That's what we always say. Nintendo lies about stuff, but really that's what it is NDAs exist. So.
Yeah.
Even
when I worked at Nintendo, like I just refrained talking about, like, I work at Nintendo. I demo games. That was it. I didn't tell people this happened at our last meeting or our last training session. Nope. Because you never know. The Nintendo ninjas are out there.
They are. They are out there. So, yeah.
Any one of us could be a Nintendo ninja.
Maybe. Maybe the Nintendo has installed like a sleeper agent on the into the podcast. Make sure none of us say anything we shouldn't. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So seems like we have some unanimous feelings. Although, like, all of this said, I would really like Twilight Princess to come to Switch. I don't think there's much they would need to do. Like, the HD version is pretty much ready to go. They could touch up a few things, but you know, game would be awesome.
Like, I think accessibility is what it comes down to, right? Port the game, make it easier. Let us have every game we ever want on one console. You can have all my money.
Come on, Nintendo, take my money. I don't care if I already own three different versions of Twilight Princess. I'll buy another. I'll buy another one.
What we've become.
That's fine. Yeah.
Womp womp.
Womp womp is right. No, legit. No, I think it's one of those most oft requested games because it's just. Well, you've been flying through it actually when you've been streaming it. And I recently finished a playthrough that I stretched out for like 6 months somehow, and it is really a quality game. Like, it's superb. It's super good. And yeah, I think also, I don't know, it seems like a no-brainer to bring that game over, really, because it's before Breath of the Wild was the best-selling Zelda game. People love it. People love that game. So, and I think there's a new wave of nostalgia for it because, to have my old man moment, there's like people who were like kids when that game came out who are now like adults, and you know, the wee babies, right? And now they have this great nostalgia for it, the same way that we do for like Ocarina of Time, you know what I mean? And it's weird, but like,
I was really concerned about where you were going with that, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's only like 1 or 2 years age difference between us.
Yeah.
No, oh my gosh, how old was I when this game came out?
I was just saying, like, this came out the year it was like, I got it. I was in high school. Or going into high school. I was, although actually I should preface that where I grew up, there was no middle school. So it goes, like a lot of people, like high school is like grade 10, 11, 12 only, I think, for some places.
We didn't have middle school either. Our high school was grade 8 to grade 12.
That was mine as well. Yeah, I think, or maybe it's 9 through 12 or something, and you have middle school. Here where I live now, there's a middle school, but where I grew up in the lovely municipality of South Burnaby, for those BC folks or my fellow Canadians, yeah, we didn't have middle school either. So yeah, I was 8 through 12 was high school. So I was grade 8 playing Twilight Princess. It was still high school, okay? I can still say I was in high school. Yeah, so it's just like weird to think about, like that's where that was in my teens. It was my teen times, and people were like babies, and now they're full adult people, fully adults. It's weird to think about. That's all I'm saying. So
Thanks for ruining my feelings.
no problem. That's like I was thinking about Skyward Sword, right? Like how that game is like 11 years old now, the original version, that is. And I was saying how like that game came out right when I had like moved out for the first time, and it was like my first game that no, maybe not my first. It was among my first games that I got as like an adult living on my own to play, right? And then I hear talk of people online, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I was like a little kid when it came out, and it was one of the first games I played." And I'm like, "How old are you? What are you doing on this? Stop it!"
We're just getting old.
I have distinct memories of throwing my laundry in and then playing Skyward Sword while the laundry was going, and then stopping to switch the laundry over because I was an adult.
Hey, I was definitely still in high school when it came out, so
screw you. I should also point out that I also moved out young, so I'm sounding older than I am. All of my life milestones have been like kind of ahead of the curve, compared to many people my age. So, yeah. Anyways,
Jesse's like, I had a full beard when this game came out.
You probably did. You probably did, Jesse. You were already writing for Zelda Universe. You were an adult man. You were. Don't deny it. You were a skater boy with a broken ankle. You were. That's a true story, by the way.
That part is true, yes. I was not writing for Zelda Universe. I was writing for Zelda Dungeon.
Okay.
To move to Zelda Universe.
My bad. I had my timeline wrong.
Because I don't know if it was, I'm going to say it was through Zelda Universe. This is the worst Zelda fan story ever, because through Zelda Dungeon, I was able to get Zelda Skyward Sword a week early, and played it for like 10 minutes, maybe an hour, I don't know, but did not actually play through the game until like 2 weeks after it had released, which was like a month after the game released, or a month after I had received the game.
Well, I actually didn't play Skyward Sword right away either, because I got it for, like, it came out on November 18th, 2011. You'll remember that. That's one of those weird dates stuck in my head. And I got it for Christmas, basically, as a Christmas gift from my brother. But I didn't have the Wii Motion Plus. And
neither did I.
Yeah, because why? Like, why didn't they just bundle that with the freaking game? Anyways, actually, some like special editions did bundle it, but not the copy I got, apparently. And so I distinctly remember like having to wait until like my next payday to go and buy one. And it was like 2 weeks or something away. I don't remember how long it was, but I remember it was an agonizing wait, because I was like, I had this game that I was excited for and I wanted to play, and it was like sitting there taunting me, and I couldn't play it because I didn't have the stupid accessory. So yeah, that stank. But luckily no such peripheral was needed for the Switch version. So
I will also.
No, go ahead, Jesse.
Jesse.
No, you please.
I'm done.
I was just gonna say I also didn't have the Wii Motion Plus. I stole one from my dad because he had 4, and he still asks for it back to this day.
Why does he have 4?
One for each controller.
What game do you need 4 of them at a time for, though? Like even like Wii Sports Resort.
There's like the Wii Sports Resort or something.
Yeah,
I think that used the Wii Motion Plus.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any 4-player games that use it. I don't think.
He's just like that. You're talking to me. I have 8 GameCube controllers.
That's fair. But we still have to do our little controller trade at
I
some
know.
point. Because I've got 6 Wii U Pro controllers.
Oh, nice.
And at least one of them's got your name on it.
Sorry, Jesse, what were you going to say?
Yes, Jesse.
I know I've said this a couple of times. I don't know if I'm allowed.
You're allowed? Oh my gosh. Now you're really allowed.
I apologize. I'll say this really quick. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. From Prima Games, which is at least the US or North America retailer for a bunch of video game walkthroughs, specifically for the Zelda series. They contacted, not that we know of him or her, the owner of Zelda Dungeon, to write the official Prima Zelda Skyward Sword guide. And they, for some reason, refused. So they contacted someone else. And then for the Hyrule Historia, which was the 25th anniversary book, they contacted someone who was working really closely with Zelda Dungeon to write the official English translation of it. So we may have been aware of a lot of stuff before it was announced. And I have no idea why they said no, but the other person did say yes. Because it ended up being Glitterberry, who was really well known in the Zelda community at the time for translating any Japanese news to English.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Very
But
interesting.
through some of those circumstances, I did end up with Skyward Sword a week early. And
Yes.
for some reason, I did not play it until like a month after I received it.
Why are you like this, Jesse? Also, Jesse, I was just saying in the YouTube chat that you're giving us like real trapped in the basement vibes with the way that you're like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, and you're holding the phone up.
Well, it was 10 years ago, and we've had some of them who was involved with the dealings on the podcast before, so I imagine we are. I never signed anything. And the one time I did sign stuff directly for Nintendo.
Yeah.
Daniel knows how paranoid I was. I was like, I don't even know if I can say this on Discord.
Jesse was
Message me on Instagram.
actually worried about the ninjas coming for him.
He's like, I need you to call me right now. You can't call me on Discord. You can't call me on Facebook. Here's my phone number. Call me.
Even then, he was very dodgy about what he actually would say.
Phone away.
So, yeah.
Take out your SIM card, throw it in the trash.
Get a burner phone and yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we got off topic with Twilight Princess. Suddenly started talking about Skyward Sword somehow, but Twilight Princess should come on.
It happens every time. We'll be talking about a Zelda game, and then something happens, and suddenly we're talking about a different Zelda game.
Yes.
Sorry, I mean, like the news story will be about a Zelda game. I'm not just talking about us as a whole as the podcast.
Right.
Of course, we're talking about different Zelda games all day.
We should be. It's a Zelda podcast. No, but no, yeah, I know what you mean. No, and you're right. And we're just bad about derailing our own selves, often.
But it is like 1%, like just 1% related to the actual topic.
Yes. No one can say that we were clickbaiting. We talked about those things. We just also talked about other things.
Because it was about, if you remember, it was about Skyward Sword. That we
And
were contacting.
Tantalus are the ones that ported Skyward Sword HD. They're the ones that did that. So it all comes full circle.
But we talked about Tantalus during Skyward Sword before they contacted us.
That's true.
And I
That's true.
told you like a million times, I think it's because we were talking about all this stuff that they decided to contact us. And then it's like, if we make them sign an NDA, then they can't talk about this. And I was like, Daniel, I don't know what to do.
I don't know. I feel like they
Neither do I.
probably had legit intentions when they first, about what they were contacting you about initially before plans fell through. Or
On the podcast.
what?
This is a bad place to talk about this.
This is. So she's right. Let's move
This
on.
is just
Twilight
airing out
Princess.
dirty laundry.
We'd all love to see it. Please make it happen, Tantalus. Even though you can't tell us
Yes.
if it's happening.
But also, yeah,
Oh.
wink, wink.
Wink.
Nudge,
The final thing about that I do want to say is, even if it is not Tantalus, they could, as Daniel said, and Choobs, 100% be telling the truth. They were never contacted about Twilight Princess, and that Nintendo could just have a random other team or part of their own team, just have like 3 or 4 people port Twilight Princess HD to the Switch, and it would be done in like a month or 2
That's
with
super.
just a few different people.
You know what this reminds me of though? His interview answer of like, oh, well, we haven't been contacted, but we'd love to do it. It's like almost verbatim what like 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 was saying. So for context, like people were asking 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 for years if he would ever want to like reprise the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that was basically his answer every time. He's like, well, no one's asked me to, but I'm open to it. I'd love to do it, whatever. And then it turns out they're making a whole Obi-Wan Kenobi show, right? So, but like, because NDAs, he can't say yes.
I won't say who, but I'm sure it's someone you guys know or know of.
Oh, it was probably me.
No.
God.
Yesterday, after I posted the video that went up yesterday, and they were like, I got a message from someone on Instagram that was like, how did I know you were going to bring up Andrew Garfield? Because I have a man crush, apparently, on Andrew Garfield.
Oh, he's got great
And they're
hair,
like-
so.
He has great hair.
He does have great hair. He's got great hair. He has
And they're
hair
like, how did I know you were going to bring up Andrew Garfield on your Zelda video? Something completely unrelated. And I'm like, I don't know.
Welcome to the life of Jesse.
I don't know why I want to have Jesse vlog and that and Kayla do the voiceover like some kind of like National Geographic video.
And
Welcome
here we
to
see
the life
Jesse
of Jesse.
in his natural habitat,
The
eating
basement.
a pizza. The basement?
The basement is his natural habitat.
Yes, it would be me talking about Andrew Garfield in the phenomenal 12 out of 10 movie
Yeah.
Under the Silver Lake.
I haven't seen
While
that,
eating a
so-
pizza.
Pizza.
Beautiful. A
Pizza.
masterpiece.
Pizza.
Chef's kiss. Do we have any other news?
Yeah,
What's
okay, not
happening right
news.
now?
Let's move on though.
I only seen 3
It's-
pieces of news.
It's dungeon time. It's dungeon time.
No, from what I remember, you skipped one of these Zelda clones.
What?
Huh?
What? What are you talking about?
Was there not another Zelda clone?
No.
Then
We are
that's
only going to
next
talk
week's
about
news.
Displaced,
Displaced.
and Tantalus.
Yeah, those are the topics.
That'll be next week's news then.
What are you talking
Maybe
about?
it's something that hasn't been said yet.
Huh?
I think that Jesse is on a different plane of existence right now.
Yes, that's where he gets all his insider info from. I'm like, maybe you're confused that there's two because I sent you the same video in two different chats, Jesse. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Gamescast, where we're all collectively losing it at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And you poor suckers are just gonna watch along.
You are.
Maybe lose it with us.
Everyone's just along for the ride. Yeah.
There really isn't a second one?
No,
I mean, unless you were thinking Tunic, but we already spoke about Tunic.
We did. I mean,
no, I know that one.
We briefly touched on games like that exist, like we said, Blossom Tales and Tunic are like Zelda inspired games, but at least they didn't completely steal like the whole visual identity of one of the Zelda games. So that was the only other thing about other Zelda clones. You asked in Discord. Hold on, maybe this is what you're thinking of. I'm just gonna pull up the message.
Don't read it out loud?
I'm gonna read it out loud. I said Zelda clones, and Jesse said, "Is there a burger clone?" And I said, "Thankfully, no." Maybe that's what you were thinking of.
Saucy private chat between Game Over Jesse and Kat Bergerson.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll say yes for now.
All right.
And then we can continue to. I wonder, Daniel, what dungeon list did you have in mind for us?
Well, since we're talking so much about Twilight Princess, and also it's a game we haven't done, we're gonna rank Twilight Princess dungeons today for everybody. Everybody, it's dungeon time. Okay, so
yeah.
Actually, part of the reason we're doing this now is also because Geek is not here, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're excluding her. No, what it is that she asked us, like she the week we were gonna do it initially, she's like, oh, I haven't finished Twilight Princess, so can we do Skyward Sword instead? So we did Skyward Sword that week. But she's not here, so we're gonna do this one instead. Basically, we're not trying to exclude her. It works out. It's okay. We did some without Kayla. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm technically Geek, and Geek is technically me.
People think they're the same person anyway. So, Twilight Princess is a great game with lots of dungeons. 9 mainline dungeons to be exact. We will not be including or ranking like the Cave of Ordeals or Cave of Shadows because they're not really proper dungeons. They're just like,
how dare you?
They're just like room after room of baddies to kill. That's all it is. So it's not like a dungeon.
Like so you're saying they automatically get a D?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know what? No, I have fun playing through them. But like they're not really like dungeons. That's all I'm saying. They're not. So let's jump right into it. If you guys don't know how tier lists work, I'm sorry. I'm not going to explain it. So let's
prepare to be thoroughly
confused. Obviously S is the best, as in super, and then A, B, C, D. D is the worst. I don't think there's any F tier dungeons just ever. I can't think of a single F tier dungeon.
Even the mini dungeons.
Yeah. D was the lowest.
Like the one next to Lake Hylia Bridge. There's the one where it's like the I'm doing this, but it's a completely different mini dungeon. All the mini dungeons are at least B tier.
All right. Oh yeah, we should also emphasize, because people sometimes see us listing these in certain orders and they're like, oh my gosh, you put the Shadow Temple in B tier, why you hate it? And B is not for bad, by the way. A B is a good mark. Just putting that out there.
Is that me that said that?
No. But no, don't worry. But all right, let's jump into this. So first dungeon of Twilight Princess. It'll take you 2 hours to get there, but it's still the first dungeon. It's the Forest Temple.
Oh. What about the sheep herding?
That's not a dungeon.
Not a dungeon.
That's not.
Jesse, Have you ever played Zelda before?
How do you know? What a dungeon!
I would say there's at least 2 documented times I've played Zelda.
He has seen Zelda.
They've seen Zelda.
I know someone who did see Zelda told me about it. That's what happened.
Oh my!
Just bringing back a really old Gamescast meme. Don't mind us.
Everyone's like, why are they laughing? That wasn't even that funny. You're gonna leave everyone really confused about that one.
I've heard of Zelda.
Yeah, heard of it. I've seen Zelda, but I've never played it. No, okay.
Oh my gosh.
But
anyways,
Forest Temple,
Monkey Dungeon.
Monkey Dungeon. I personally, just to kick this off, I would stick this one as a solid B. Personally, as in it's not bad, but it's not like a great dungeon either. But it serves its purpose.
B for not bad.
B for not bad.
B for not bad.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, this dungeon is a very strong first dungeon.
Mm-hmm. True.
Mm-hmm.
You just like monkeys. You just like monkey business, don't you?
Monkey.
That's what it comes down to.
And the weird noises that they make. No, they make weirder noises than Twilight Princess.
I don't know. All right. I'll stop making monkey sounds.
I think B is a pretty solid spot for it. Like, it's the first dungeon that you do in the game. It's your, like, real kind of introductory period.
Mm-hmm.
It's got monkeys. It's got that big spider. That spider scared the bejeebus out of me the first time I ever played it.
But not the biggest spider. That comes later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, when you do the finishing move on it and all of its legs come
Oh.
up.
Okay. What? Yeah, definitely a note about that. When this game was new in the old year of 2006, the Skulltula is in the Forest Temple. Or, well, they're all over the game, but in the Forest Temples when you first see them, they really creep me out. Like, genuinely, the way they move is way too much like how a real spider moves.
Yep.
Just putting that out there. It ain't good. It ain't right.
Jesse, do you have any feelings? Stop touching the screen. It looks like you're touching us.
I was
POV,
trying to turn the brightness
we're touching
up
you.
so that you could see me better.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know all the fans out there would love to see us in better light.
ASMR, I'm touching you.
So,
Okay.
Thank you for touching me. I've missed that for like
You've been
3
touched.
years now.
People listening to the audio only version of this, I'm sorry.
So, I don't know if you all can see it, but right behind me, I have a Zelda poster for like each of the 3D Zelda games.
Right.
The only one hanging up in this basement, because Daniel only affords me one thumbnail, or one thumbtack, is a Twilight Princess poster. And I was thinking, Ocarina of Time does such a great job with the Deku Tree as an introduction dungeon, but it's also introducing the players to their first 3D game in general.
Yes.
And then it's, how does the forest or whatever temple, like, how does that contribute?
I will say, that is the thing, is that Twilight Princess spends so much time before you even get to the first dungeon that it doesn't have to introduce you to how to play the game like Inside the Deku Tree does. So I've never viewed it as like really much of an introductory dungeon, like aside from introducing you to dungeons. Whereas Inside the Deku Tree introduces you not just to dungeons, but like how the gameplay goes itself, you know?
Because finding cats and catching fish is such an important part of the game.
Well, yeah, and then you become Doggo as well. Don't forget about Doggo. Jesse.
Yeah, it really is an introduction dungeon. It's like, here is a real dungeon. Get to it.
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a good point, though, is that it doesn't have to introduce you to as much as the Deku Tree does. So, valid point. But
you know what?
yes.
Minna's like 10 out of 10. Like,
What the heck?
so I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with an A.
You're gonna go with A?
Plus,
For...
I think
look, she's like her hand. She's like,
What does that have to do with this dungeon? Jesse, what does that have to do with the Forest Temple?
It's everything.
All right.
So B it is.
Jesse thinks it's an
It's
A.
no, it's an A. But
I don't
it doesn't
know.
matter because
The thing is, like,
2 out of 3 B still makes
it's
a
a
B.
very
Yeah.
it's a very guided experience, which some people like, but for me, I would rather I feel the guidedness of it is unnecessary, because it's like you come into a room, let's say you come to this central room of the dungeon, and there's 3 doors, and 2 of them are locked, or 2 of them you can't reach, right? I don't need a monkey to tell me to go through the one door that's not locked. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, for me, like the guidedness of the dungeon feels a little unnecessary, is what I'm gonna say. I don't mind rescuing the monkeys, because they just they get happy and then they follow you around a bit. But I don't like being trailed around by monkeys, I guess. Is what I'm going with.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that it's already like far more than previous starter dungeons. Maybe it is got a bit of complexity with its layout and its navigation, which I like. And the boomerang's good. This is a boomerang. Boomerang in Zelda's good. So B is not bad. I really don't feel like it's an A tier dungeon, especially compared to some of these other ones that get so good. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think B is a good spot for it.
And I also don't think that your poster is a justification for it being an A tier dungeon either. Also,
Yeah, get told.
yeah. So Goron Mines is the second dungeon. It's the hot place. It's flamey. I also say
there's water in it.
there is water in it. That's true.
Which makes sense. That's how
There's
you make
also-
steam.
There's also magnets in it, and
There-
you get some magnetism with your booties.
I can't handle Jesse's energy right now.
It's chaotic, is what I'm gonna say. That's a book.
He's going
The
to.
Bible tells me.
You're gonna offend people.
It's okay, I'm a Christian.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well.
I went to church like a month and a half ago. It's okay.
Okay. Well, Jesse, I'm gonna say right now, I think the Goron Mines are also B tier, to be honest.
I agree.
I think, again, B
I
is
don't-
not bad.
I don't mind it. It's not the worst dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those dungeons that when I play it kind of, at a certain point, it feels like I'm kind of like dragging myself along, trying to get through, because there's so much repetition of going through the same area.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, it all starts to kind of like muddle into one at that point.
Okay. That's fair. I do think one strength to it is that often when you're retreading rooms, it's a different retread than when you first went through it. So like there's a room, say the first time you go through there, you're hopping across lava, you kill some dang dongos and whatever. And then the second time you go through the room, then you're on the ceiling, walking with your iron booties.
The thought there I was thinking was like when you're kind of like on your way to the boss door and they've got those like big like planks over the water with the goblins shooting at you with the arrows. Yeah, that area is like you go into that area, you go to the right. At some point later, maybe you go to the left, but like way later. It's not like it's like at the end. It's the last thing you do before you go to the boss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is a little weird because if I were designing the dungeon, okay, so basically how the dungeon is shaped is it's like a loop, basically. The dungeon's a huge loop. You come in on the south side of the loop, then the boss door is at the north side of the loop, right? So to progress through the dungeon, you have to go from the south side and around the whole loop, including through that north area, and then back down, and then back up to the north spot again to get to the boss door after. And so, yeah, I get what you mean. If I were designing it, I would have placed the boss door close to the entrance at the south side near, like, I can visualize it in my head, but there's the big central room that has, like, the giant crane. I would have put the boss door, like, maybe a hallway attached to that room instead. And so that when you do that loop, then you're back at that big central room, then you can go over to the boss door from there, instead of retreading a third of the dungeon, again, just to get to the boss door. So...
Also,
yeah,
the noise inside that dungeon, I remember when I was streaming it, the aggressive sound of, like, the lava and just kind of, like, that static that it makes, it destroyed my TV speakers. That sounded absolutely horrid. Yeah, it was the worst thing I've ever heard. And my TV did not do it with anything else. It only did it in that dungeon. It was actually bizarre.
I have never encountered that. That's so strange.
TV hated it.
Yeah, weird.
He's fine. Weird. I give it a B. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I love that they made a Balrog the dungeon boss.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Balrog is the dungeon boss.
That was one of the first bosses they designed, I think, too, because it was, like, in the 2004, like, E3 trailer as well, like the really early trailers. Yeah. So they had a concept going in. Yeah. He looks beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that was a plus. I love that they were like, what did we use the iron boots in the last major game, which is Ocarina of Time?
Not Wind Waker?
Although Wind Waker major... No.
Wind Waker had iron
major
boots?
Game.
Hey.
Major game.
Excuse you.
Major game.
Excuse you.
Roasted.
Excuse you. Wind Waker.
We used it in the water dungeon.
Wind
How can
Waker.
we completely put that on its head?
Wind Waker.
And they found a way to use it instead of the water dungeon to sink down, which they still did. But they were like, what can we do to give it a brand new effect? Which was all the magnetic rocks.
Okay. Wind Waker also shook up how to use the iron boots as well, I'll say. Like Wind Temple and Wind Waker uses them differently. You never use the iron boots in water.
You can walk slow.
But it's still... No, you use it to, like, literally be heavy. Like, weigh down switches and, like, use the hook shot to pull things towards you instead of pulling you towards them. Because you're too heavy.
Yeah,
but I will consider, like, still Twilight Princess is still even different from that as well, which is good. But there's no need to just cut Wind Waker out like that. That's just rude. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Well,
you look at Toon Link in the face and tell him that. Tell his cute little face that you don't think he's from a real game.
Tell him, Jesse.
Hold on.
Say, I don't think... Say, hi, my name is Game Over Jesse, and I don't think Wind Waker is a major Zelda game. And see... just because Link's crossbow training sold more copies.
Really?
You can't find him. Alright, Water Temple.
Yes, the Lakebed Temple. Everybody's gonna hate me for this, but I think it's an A-tier dungeon.
I was really scared that you were gonna say S-tier.
No, not S. It's not S-tier, but I think it is A-tier. I think it's really fantastic, actually. Look, he's beautiful. He's a great child. Look at him.
What was I supposed to say?
I, Game Over Jesse, do not believe that Wind Waker is a major Zelda game. And then also, someone's gonna come punch you later for that. So, you don't have to say that second part. That's just me telling you.
Someone's gonna, like, find him in a store and be like, "You're Game Over Jesse! You think Wind Waker isn't a real Zelda game!"
This is why Jesse's in the basement for the Wind Waker era, sure. That's correct.
Okay, maybe I can't say that.
That's correct.
See, I told you you wouldn't be able to say it to Toon Link's face like that.
I can't say it.
I can't say it.
I can't say it. So like Water Temple. the Zora's fishy place. I think it's a great dungeon. I actually really do think it's super good. I think it has a great. There's the hand holding is gone here. There's no guidedness.
Yes.
I really think people get stuck on it, but as long as you're using the lovely tried and true method that I call process of elimination, i.e. if there's 4 doors in a room and 3 of them are locked, go through the one that's not locked. Then you should be able to get through it eventually, at least. Claw shot, awesome dungeon item. Absolutely awesome. It's the hook shot at its best. The hook shot, but better than the hook shot. And yeah, it's great. More feels kind of a weak boss fight, which is why it's not S tier in my opinion. But yeah, I just think that the dungeon's great. I love the navigation. I love the challenge. I love Froggo mid boss. He big frog.
He's a good mid boss.
He's a good mid boss.
He's weird.
He's weird, but he's a good mid boss. It's a great dungeon. It's a great dungeon. And
I want to argue with you about a dungeon, but I agree right now.
Yeah,
I think his official name was Deku Toad.
Yeah, he is for some reason, even though I don't know why.
Confusing name.
But actually, what I think I love most about the dungeon is other dungeons typically have a series of like micro challenges. You go in a room, there's a puzzle in that room. You do that puzzle, and then you can move on, right? The Lakebed Temple, conversely, is as a whole kind of one larger puzzle. And so what puzzle you do in one room actually has an effect on the other room. Do you know what I mean? And I just love that. I think it's great. I think it's superbly great. Also, my cat is meowing so loud. I'm so sorry.
I can hear your cat.
She is so loud.
It sounds like you have a small child running through your hallway screaming.
That's
And
Jenny.
the most terrifying boss in any Zelda game.
All right, if you say so.
Yeah, it freaks me out. Look at that bug, though.
Ugh,
the bug freaks me out.
I don't like the
gross.
bug. I think the bug is grosser than
yeah, that bug.
Grosser, but maybe less scary, but grosser. All right, so A tier for Lakebed Temple. Now Arbiter's Grounds. S tier. I'm saying it now. Arbiter's Grounds is awesome. Great dungeon, great sense of navigation, frickin' Beyblades as a dungeon item, and which is just weird, but it works. Star-Lord's an awesome boss. Killing ghosts. It's all spoopy. It's a spoopy dungeon. It's like
spooky dungeon.
It's somewhere between the Shadow and Spirit Temple. Like it's like those two blended together.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna do a real ice dungeon this time, so just get rid of the Shadow dungeon.
I also think that Arbiter's Grounds is great in that it makes good use of both Hylian form and wolf form. You actually have to use Wolf Link in it.
Yes.
And considering like that's one of the game's like big sort of gimmicks is being able to transform into a wolf, it takes 4 dungeons to actually make use of Wolf Link. But they do it really well here, I think. With the pose and everything. So
and
the music also.
Oh. Nope. Sorry. Continue.
The music.
Oh, I was gonna say the music really plays well to the theme.
Oh, it's
of
good.
The dungeon as well.
It's
creepy. It's like it sounds exactly how it would feel.
Yeah,
and I love that.
It's good. It's real good. And we haven't been talking about the music enough. That's usually where Geek comes in and gives us the music lowdown. But
because I've recently played through these dungeons, it's like fresh in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. You breezed through that dungeon on your stream as well, but yeah, I think it's super super good. There's a lot of sort of for the lore enthusiasts. There's a lot of that implicit history here. Like you're told this was some Hylian prison, but then you go in and you're like, this is a Gerudo building, but there's no Gerudos and there's a bunch of ghosts and dead people and weird stuff going on here. And Star-Lord is a big old bony boy. I know what I said. And so it's just, yeah, I just like, there's a lot of like cool wall carvings and stuff like that. The whole aesthetic of it is like just super good. It's super good. Yeah, I frankly love it. It is tied with one other dungeon as my favorite in this game, so which we'll get to shortly. But any other thoughts about Arbiter's Grounds, Jesse?
Yeah, just reiterating what you said. It does a great job of taking past history and making it into something new. So essentially the Spirit Temple becomes Arbiter's Grounds, and now instead of dealing with like physical stuff, you're dealing with spiritual stuff, because presumably everything just died.
Mm-hmm.
And the pose lead up to like the main boss, or the mini boss for all of the different pose you encounter, is the Death Sword.
I forgot about Death Sword. Awesome mini boss.
Which is
too.
basically a ghost that uses
He's
a
also
sword.
good.
Yeah. Which is similar to the Stone Tower Temple's mini boss, I guess, in a way, maybe.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
is its own thing, and it's nice to see that it, like the ghosts or the phantoms that you have to find or whatever as Wolf Link, it leads up to something, and then the exact opposite of fighting a spirit is like fighting a possessed dead body without a spirit, which is Stalwart. So it's like the mini boss and the boss is opposite, because one is just a spirit while the other one is just a dead body.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
I never thought of that, but that's like a really good point. Like
see the moment where Burger's brain was like,
legit
what?
Though. Like, yeah, that's a really good point.
Gotta go remake your video.
I have to go remake my video. Oh, that video's already like half an hour. Oh no. Oh man, no, it's super good though. It is really fantastic.
Well,
my biggest criticism with
it helps when you have the good word in front of you while you're talking.
This is true.
Oh my gosh, Jesse.
But no, my biggest criticism with Arbiter's Grounds is that the game doesn't make good enough use of the spinner after the Arbiter's Grounds. But I'm like, that's not even really a complaint with this dungeon, because it uses the spinner really well within the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
It's just after the dungeon
and they
they drop the ball.
Well, no. I was going to say they did a good job, but no, they did a mediocre job of implementing the spinner as an outside dungeon item. Because there are a few heart pieces and puzzles you solve in Hyrule Field, but do you really need to?
It's optional stuff, and then after that, within dungeons, the only time they use the spinner is there's some sections where they're like, okay, there could just be a staircase here, but what we'll do is, instead of a staircase, we'll have the top and bottom of the stairs, and then the middle part is broken, and you use the spinner to get across. And they just do that like 3 or 4 times. And that's not really as interesting as all the cool stuff that you do with the spinner in this dungeon. Like there's like spinner tracks, and you're like hopping between them to avoid the blade traps and spikes and stuff.
I love the hopping between on the spinner. That's so much fun. And when you nail it, you're just like, yes.
Yeah.
Good at
Link
something.
becomes a skater boy. Without a broken ankle.
Avril Lavigne comes out on stage and dedicates a song to him.
To Link, yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's great. So yeah, S tier dungeon. I'm glad we're in agreement. The next one is Snow Peak Ruins, home of the Yetis, where you also get to drink soup. The only dungeon in Zelda history featuring soup, and therefore S tier. S tier.
I was gonna say, this dungeon has to be S tier. I was thinking about it when we were playing Twilight Princess, and this is, I think, one of my favorite dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Its replayability is fantastic. Going on this wild goose chase because this lady is going crazy and can't remember where she put anything. Love it. I love opening up a chest and just getting a big round of cheese. Love it. And you walk up at Husband Yeti, and he's like, cheese, and punches you, and then puts the cheese in there.
It's
And I just-
good. It's good.
It's weird because, like, this dungeon is so, like, serious, and, like, it feels really, like, "Oh, scared and cold and lonely," but also Man Yeti shows up, and I love Man Yeti.
And it was the precursor, the snowboard racing, or the snow trunk wood tree
The
collapse thing.
shield surfing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it was the precursor for the shield surfing in
True.
Breath of the Wild.
Also, you get the ball and chain,
Great item.
favorite item. You can use it literally anywhere, anytime.
It's one of my faves. Great item. I
Pretty good item.
I mentioned earlier that Arbiter's Grounds was tied with another dungeon for being my favorite. This is that other dungeon. It's seriously, I think it might actually objectively be the best dungeon in this game, personally. But yeah, I think they're both S tier. But yeah, I think it's just super fantastic. It sort of like rolls the story out progressively. Like from a navigational standpoint, I think it's flawless. Like there's maybe a couple points where you're like, oh, you get this key here, and it's a little confusing about which door to go to, but like nothing too out of, it's nothing. It's not like Water Temple from Ocarina of Time level of confusing by any means. Like, and I think that you already mentioned the ball and chain, super great item. The boss as well, like 𝗏𝗏𝗃. I actually really, it's not a hard boss fight, but I love it. Every time I play through it, I just love it so much. Even though there's totally the jump scare there, which if that didn't scare the bejesus out of you the first time you play this game, you're lying. It did. You're a liar.
Okay, but we had that conversation in my stream when I was playing, and
I stand by what I
did
said.
not feel the jump scare.
I stand by what I said. You're a filthy liar.
I had also I'd had my head chopped off with a chainsaw in Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, probably before that. So
doesn't matter. We're not talking about Resident Evil 4, which is also a great game. We're talking about 𝗏𝗏𝗃.
Yeah.
Also, the
such a
music
good boss
in that boss fight is a jam. It's so good. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, I can't sing my praises for this one. That's why it's in soup tier, as everyone is saying. S for soup. It's the soup tier now. Yeah.
What do you think, Jesse? You want to fight us?
No, Dark Hammer, 𝗏𝗏𝗃, both are amazing.
They are both amazing. They
both amazing.
Dark Hammer, very reminiscent to the dungeon boss when you rescue Zelda from the first half dungeon of A Link to the Past.
You're correct.
And 𝗏𝗏𝗃 is very reminiscent to the bosses that just start out as like a giant boss, and then you hit them, and it ends up being like one less that you have to hit. Like usually it's the bubbles in like A Link to the Past that you have to like destroy all the bubbles, and it's the eyeball or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically the same concept, but it's ice crystals, and then once you destroy all the ice crystals, it gets smaller and smaller till it's just some Yita that fell in love and got obsessed with the Dark Mirror.
Yeti love is also great. I'm just putting it out there. They love each other. They're a power couple, the Yetis. So
I also
Yeti.
I also just love that this is like Link being like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna help Midna get this mirror, and I've heard bad things, but I don't know. And then he shows up to this temple and goes, "Whoa, they were not lying."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I think it's the first. No, is this the first or second boss that you get? Like when you destroy the mini boss, Dark Hammer, you get their
the
weapon they were using against you.
That happens in Forest Temple as well with the boomerang.
Yeah, so it's the second.
But I think that's it. I think that's the only time you get the item that the mid boss was actually using for keeps.
Yeah.
So.
And it reminds me a lot of Mega Man, which is always a plus.
That is a plus.
Something in Breath of the Wild, like every enemy you destroy,
you take their weapon.
Whatever. Yeah, you just take whatever they had.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Truth. Yeah, I just think the whole aesthetic of the place is like, no pun intended. It's very chilling. But like in the I didn't mean it that way though. No, but I think it's just yeah, it's just like really great aesthetic. It's just got that vibe. That's like this really feels like this old abandoned mansion that's kind of derelict and in disrepair, and yeah, fantastic. Truly fantastic dungeon.
Which you well, I can't find her, but presumably it would have belonged to someone before.
Are you thinking about that lady?
That that lady.
Yeah. Same brain
I'm always thinking about that lady.
Oh no. Just like 𝗷𝗵𝗲's always thinking about Telma.
Oh my
No, I was reading an interview where she was like, I tried to get a 𝗏𝗵𝗲 amiibo made, but they wouldn't let me. I did a lot of research for that last video that I published.
Oh no.
It was an interview where she was like, where 𝗷𝗵𝗲 was like, yeah, I tried to get a 𝗏𝗵𝗲 video or a 𝗏𝗏𝗲 amiibo published, but they were like, what would it be used for? And he's like, I don't know. Looks.
Terrible. I think the Wolf Link and Midna amiibo was the right choice. Oh no. Oh no. All right. Well, Snowpeak.
Poor 𝗷𝗵𝗲.
S tier. Next is the Temple of Time dungeon, as it's called. Even though I don't. Well, there's theories about that. I don't think
Temple
it's.
of Weight.
I think it's the Temple of Light, but I also think it's a pretty good dungeon. But I'm not sure where to place it. I'm kind of caught.
D.
I was gonna say B.
You were gonna say B?
Yeah, I don't think it's an A tier, and I don't think it's an S tier. It's
What?
very linear.
Yeah. But it's...
And yeah, there's all of like the history and all of the lore and all the things that YouTube theorists and Zelda theorists can think of, but like playability wise and even soundtrack wise, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that dungeon. It's one of those like it's basically a big escort mission.
Yes, but I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I always have a lot of fun playing through this one, actually. I think it's I like getting what I affectionately have nicknamed the big statue that you escort. I haven't affectionately nicknamed him Buddy, and I really like getting Buddy, and even though it's an escort mission, when you go from point A to point B, then you get Buddy, then you go point B back to point A. The traversal is different because you have to work around having him with you and moving him, and then you use him for some puzzles. I love the Dark Nut mid-boss. I love the Dominion Rod as an item, even though it's also kind of underused. They like kind of shelve in a fetch quest after this for it, and then they forget about it. And I think, I don't know, I just that my big critique is I don't like the boss fight. 𝗷𝗵𝗲 can suck it. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah.
It's the most generic, boring boss fight. It's not fun. But
I agree.
See, I think B would be fair, but then I see it next to the Forest Temple and Goron Mines, and I'm like, but it's better than those ones. Like, you know, it's better than those two.
Wait,
like,
you think?
Wow, this dungeon just bores me so much. Like,
oh, really?
I don't know if you guys have ever gotten this, but like when I play Zelda games, sometimes I'm not very good at beating things. So I'll play through a couple of dungeons and then I'll drop off and I'll go, oh my gosh, that game I was playing, but I can't just pick up from where I left off. So I'll play the couple of dungeons again.
Okay.
So like the first 3 dungeons of every Zelda game, I'm very proficient in because I've played them so many times. That's what that dungeon feels like to me, which is really weird because I know it's probably one of my least played if I'm only realistically playing like half the game. That dungeon, I don't know. It feels like a chore to me. I don't like that dungeon. It just feels like a chore. Every time I get to it, I'm like,
I feel you, and I'm I don't know what to say to that.
Its redeeming qualities are the Dominion Rod, the Dark Nut, and it had one more quality, but I don't remember
lasagna. I mean, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏.
Choose. Do you remember what the main item is in the dungeon?
The Dominion Rod. She just said it. She just said Dominion Rod. She just said Dominion Rod. she
redeeming
just said.
Factors. Oh, sorry, and Buddy, the big statue dude. That's the
I love
one.
Buddy. But I don't think linear. Yeah, you mentioned linear before. I don't think linear's a bad thing.
Jesse's like, sorry, what? Tubes? I didn't listen to a single word you said.
No, I listened to you, but in my head I was thinking, I got the part mixed up where you use the Dominion Rod after to get all the statue to get the sky ridings to go to the city in the sky. I got that mixed up with what you were saying.
Oh,
so
and see,
I'm just stupid, so ignore me.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
Joseph makes a really good point that this dungeon is linear, and in a way, it doesn't really require you to think. Not that I think terribly hard when I'm playing most Zelda games, but this one really doesn't let you make you think.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
To Daniel.
That's fair.
Daniel. Are you judging this dungeon based upon the game that it was included in?
Yes. I don't. What's the alternative?
Or the game, or the game that it could have been.
I don't understand what you mean by this. Like,
so you're not judging when you asked me for a 4K video of the boss of this dungeon when it was supposed to be in the forest dungeon.
Yeah, but okay.
You're not saying I would have rather had it in the forest dungeon chasing me down a dark tunnel.
I would rather that. So that is a thing. So yeah, our judgment here is strictly on the retail release of the game, not beta stuff or anything like that, or what could have been, or fantasy or cut content. But you do raise a good point that the Goma fight got nerfed because we saw in beta trailers that there was some really awesome sequence in which 𝗏𝗏𝗃 was chasing you through a dark tunnel, and it was terrifying, intense, and it could have been really awesome. And then, for some reason, we got shoot the eyeball as the boss fight instead. And granted, they actually did reuse that idea in, of all games, Spirit Tracks. Don't worry, you get your dark tunnel chase in your fix of being chased through a dark tunnel there. But yeah, it does feel like 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 got kind of nerfed here, and I just, like I said, I'll concede to B tier. I think you've talked me down, because I think as much as B is not bad, as much as I enjoy the dungeon, thinking back to like when I was doing my dungeon videos about Twilight Princess, I would say that this is probably the one I had the most nitpicks with, or like ways that I would improve it compared to others. I don't think the linear nature of it is bad per se, because it comes off the heels of Snow Peak, which was the least linear, is the most open dungeon up to this point. And so it's just like shaking things up, basically. It's like two dungeons, one after the other, that are totally different from each other, which I appreciate. But it's not like it's not amazing either. It's just like good.
Yeah.
So
you're right, though. That contrast is super important, because if they had done another really out there dungeon, it just wouldn't have really meshed together that well. But yeah, every time I still feel like this is a B tier dungeon.
This one is here to break up the pace, because that other enormous dungeon comes next in City in the Sky. City in the Sky, home of the boob chickens.
Booba chicken.
Now, I have mixed feelings about this dungeon, actually, because
I shall return.
Okay, Jesse will return. I will tell you my mixed feelings, though. I objectively look at everything in this dungeon, and I'm like, good dungeon. Good dungeon. Claw shots, good. Lizalfos, but with wings this time? Okay, good. Good. Big old dragon boss fight? Good. Double claw shots? Very, very good. But when I'm, truth be told, when I'm playing through this dungeon, I always feel like it goes on just maybe about like 15 minutes too long. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And that holds it
I
back.
100% agree.
Like, it's long.
I really like this. Yeah, I really like this dungeon. I think that the idea of it's really good. I really like the direction that they went in with it, but you're absolutely right. It feels like it takes forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
overstays its welcome just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's my only criticism with it, really. But like everything about it is good. It's just it's almost like they just crammed a little too much into it. Yeah.
It's hard because like I don't think that it's S tier as good as it is. I think it's more like a high A.
I think that's totally fair. I think a high A is good. Yeah. I do think like it has the best dungeon item in the fact that even like I got confused the first time I played Twilight Princess. I legit thought I had encountered a glitch when I opened the chest and it's like another claw shot, and I was like, oh no, there's a glitch here. I didn't get the right dungeon item, or what's going on. I just got it just showed the claw shot again, or what is this, right? Until I started reading the item description, because reading is important, guys. Good reading comprehension matters. And I was like, wait, what? Huh? What? And then you equip it, and then you're zooming around the place, and it's so it's so good. I mentioned this in previous times we've done our dungeon tier lists, but I'm always a big fan of dungeon items that improve mobility in some way, and this does. It improves mobility in a big way. Yeah. The hook shot has never been so good. It's so good that in Skyward Sword they skip giving you a single claw shot to begin with. They're like, claw shots, or just have them both now. Just have them both. just
right?
Take them both.
It's so good.
It is.
And like you think about like all of the different ways that they've added puzzles in for you to be able to utilize these too, right? Like it carries forward from this point. It doesn't just stop.
That is the thing, is a lot of people criticize Twilight Princess's remembering to use dungeon items, like we talked about the spinner earlier. The claw shots do not fall prey to that. They get used pretty consistently from here on out. It's great. Also, you get to fight a big old dragon. I like that.
That's a fun boss. I
like
do like fighting dragons.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Oh, and they've got what are those weird flying things that you claw shot into?
The 𝗶𝗃s?
I hate those things. Yeah, I hate the 𝗶𝗃s. They scare me.
I don't know why. I hate the 𝗶𝗃s. It's just.
Well, it's because at an Ocarina of Time, it's like
𝗶𝗃s.
nighttime when the 𝗶𝗃's chasing you, and you're like,
Yeah. The
𝗶𝗃s.
funny story about 𝗶𝗃s chasing you is I was recording. Geek asked if I could record some game footage for her recently, for a video she put out about overworld music in Zelda. So I was recording some music of Ocarina of Time, and it was just like me running around Hyrule Field. So, like I had like a fresh save basically. So like it was like the first time emerging to like Hyrule Field basically. And, or maybe I'd gotten to Castletown, but that's where I was at. So it was a perfect time to just like go around. So anyway, so, I'm just young Link, just fresh out of the Deku Tree. Sounds weird to say out loud. And I'm running around Hyrule Field, and then, I totally get, like, swarmed by 𝗶𝗃s, and I'm like, I forgot about these guys! So, yeah,
guys,
Geek
please,
is, like,
I'm just trying to get footage.
it's like 10 minutes of me running around Hyrule Field, and probably, like, 4 minutes out of that 10 is me, like, fending off these 𝗶𝗃s, because I'm like, oh god, I forgot about these guys.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I avoid them. Like, to this day, I go nowhere near them. I know where they are. I want nothing to do with them.
Yeah, they're actually not as hard as I remember them being, though. So, yeah, my cat's being loud again. I'm sorry.
Oh, meowy baby.
She's baby. But yeah, it's but City in the Sky is a great dungeon, even if the 𝗶𝗃s don't chase you. Actually, it's probably better that they don't chase you.
Less terrifying in this game.
Way less terrifying.
Mostly just the way they look makes me uncomfortable.
Lizalfos with wings.
10 out of 10.
Great. Love it. Just lots of really fun challenges. But yeah, it does definitely, like you said, like we both said, it overstays its welcome just a little bit. But Jesse, we were dishing about this dungeon. What are your thoughts? We're putting it in A tier so far. So you're outvoted anyways if you say something else. But but tell us your thoughts about City in the Sky. And while you do that, I'm going to grab my cat.
Meow, meow, meow.
So you're muted.
Meow, meow, meow. You are muted. I can grab my cat too. You playing the cat game? I don't know where the streets are.
I was muted. I am sorry.
Welcome.
Well, my cat didn't want to come with me. She saw me coming and she's like, food time! And she's trying to get me to follow her down the stairs. Anyways, go on. Go on.
I was attempted to speak while you all were talking about the 𝗶𝗃s, which are a huge part of this dungeon. But because of Majora's Mask, I would flop down into a bunch of holes because that's the only thing to do when you're trapped in Daniel's basement is just to venture down holes. So there would always be these 𝗶𝗃s. And anytime I seen a 𝗶𝗃 in the hole when I was younger, I would just nope, right out of the hole.
𝗶𝗃s in the hole.
Yeah. But with
okay. Just gonna
I love that they were able to introduce. I love that they were able to introduce the dungeon item as, like, if you look at Argorok, his tail is literally a claw shot.
Yep.
But it has, like, 6 things to grab with instead of just 4.
3.
And they perfectly introduced the 𝗟𝗏𝘆𝗆s instead of 𝗍𝗏𝘆s, 𝗟𝗏𝘆s, as like the perfect enemy for a claw shot because it just hooks onto the shield. Unless you have a rocket launcher like the people later on in Hyrule Castle.
Yeah, that would come in handy, wouldn't it? That would come in handy.
Like what? Yeah, but the dungeon is really cool. I really like it. I love how they turned the 𝗶𝗃s, one of the most ferocious enemies in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, into just a normal, standard, not even an enemy, just something for you to use your item with.
Yep.
The 𝗶𝗃s in this timeline in particular, because in Wind Waker they're still vicious. They're incredibly vicious in Wind Waker.
Oh, they found a way to tame them.
Yeah, but in this timeline, the 𝗶𝗃s just mellowed out. It's just this timeline actually, because in the downfall time, like with the original like Zelda games and stuff, the 𝗶𝗃s are also like vicious enemies. So it's just this is the timeline of the mellow 𝗶𝗃 strain. Yeah.
What a weird sentence.
Hey, listen, I didn't say 𝗶𝗃s in the hole, so.
Also, I would like to point out the helmet the 𝗟𝗏𝘆s wear. They have beads around their neck as like a necklace, like three different layers of beads. So I just want to say that whoever invited them to Mardi Gras should be ashamed of themselves.
Or proud of themselves. Very proud.
Questions.
Very proud. Oh my gosh. Someone's saying Majora's Mask is in the same timeline. This is true, but I mean it's later. This is later down in the timeline. I'm just saying this is the only timeline they mellow out. Actually, no, they're chill in Skyward Sword as well, which is weird. So they go from being chill to super aggressive, and then depending on the outcome of the timeline split, they go back to being chill or stay aggressive. I don't know.
So what you're saying is they're like humans.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sure.
I guess. All right. A tier. Great tier for this dungeon. Palace of Twilight is next. The Palace of Twilight is, in my opinion, the shortest and easiest and simplest dungeon. But yeah, as Kayla's motioning. It has the grabby grab hand who goes, I want to grab your balls.
What?
The orbs.
Later, Gate is going to watch this, Daniel.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about the orbs.
Shame. Shame.
Yeah, you know the orbs that you get. They want
Shame.
to reclaim the spheres that you stole.
Will say, probably the only thing that actually gets my heart rate up are those hands chasing me and the music as it goes faster when they get closer.
Yes, it has that audio cue that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, as they're, it's very well done. It's very well done. I think like even though the navigation aspect of this is really simple, the vibe of this whole place is phenomenal. I love the aesthetic of like the Twilight realm and the sort of like the glowing line art that's all over the place and all that good stuff. I think it's really gorgeous, like visually. I think it stands out. And again, like super different than anything before this in this game. Well, maybe not partially, because like we've seen a lot of Twilight stuff already, but
Yes.
Way different than any dungeons before this today. So yeah, it's I think it's super good. Also, Zant, it's very satisfying to beat him, to beat his butt. I've kind of come around on Zant. I used to not like Zant very much. I used to think he was kind of a cop-out villain. But I've come around on Zant. I think it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is
That's
the noise happening?
noise. It's not my cat this time.
Yeah, what I really like about this dungeon is that it's not like so much a dungeon so much as you're really just like walking through Midna's hometown.
Yeah. But then it's like
And
yeah, that's legit actually. That is a good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so funny and just so cool the way that we walk in there. And absolutely, it's so different from everything that you see in Legend of Zelda games. And I would love to see more of this.
Mm-hmm.
I always get tripped up on the boss key being behind that waterfall, though. That always messes me up. Or the fall of the blackness.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
That's
that always trips me up.
Like you could walk right past that and miss it. The good news is that it's like 2 doors down from the boss door. So like if you do miss it, you don't have to backtrack that far, assuming you know where to look. But yeah, I mean it is weirdly placed, and that was actually a criticism I had with Temple of Time as well. Was I thought the boss key was placed in a weird spot that's easily missed, in that dungeon as well. But
oh yeah, it is because it's like right on top of where you get the item.
No, not even. It's like
right?
There's the room, a few rooms before where you get the item. There's that room with the giant scales, and you have to like claw shot up to the top of the room, and then there's like a ledge with a door, and then that room has the boss.
Like
key.
It could be a secret, but no, you actually have to go up there.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like whenever I'm playing through the dungeon, I always look at that and I'm like, oh, it's a secret up there. It's gonna be like a stamp or heart piece or whatever. And then I'm like, oh right, it's the boss key. It's important. You need it. Yeah. But like people who are not like completionists might just be like, oh, it's like a secret. There's a Poe up there. I don't care. I'm not getting all the Poes, and just move on, right? So annoying. But yeah, for Palace of Twilight, I think it's pretty good. On all fronts except for like the actual dungeon aspect of it, which I think it's navigationally pretty weak. It's like very segmented. It's just like basically like the whole dungeon is shaped like a trident basically, and these paths that split, they don't connect back to each other. And like you can see it even in the little image here. It's like 3 separate buildings that you go in, and each building is like a straight line, right? And then you go there and back. And yeah, so I feel like it's navigationally weak. It's just, but everything else is like super fun. And Phantom Zant he's no Phantom Ganon, but he's still like a serviceable mid-boss. But actually Zant is a pretty fun boss fight because he's got chaotic energy more than we do tonight, and it's sort of a cool like a recap boss fight, which is cool because previous times where we've had like boss fight recaps, like Wind Waker does it, where you have to fight like 4 bosses in Ganon's tower, right? And they're just the same bosses that we've done. These are like the same boss room and the same like general idea as those boss fights, but it's Zant, and there's like a bit of a twist to it that's like a little different.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that better than just fighting the same boss a second time. It's like same idea as that boss, but with a twist instead of just, okay, here's Moldorm again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these are like the little basically things that he put in your way to prevent you from getting anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, like I gotta change it up, like now.
Yeah. And it does feel like Zant's character, I think, is interesting because, like I said, when I first played this game, I hated this whole twist with Ganondorf being there. I was like, couldn't Zant have just been the big bad? He was so cool. Like, he seemed really cool and menacing, but he's grown on me. And I think in this moment, he's like, up until now, put on this facade of like, I'm this really tough, bad, evil guy. And then this facade just crumbles. Like, and he just like goes into like panic mode and just comes out swinging with everything he's got. And he's almost like kind of pathetic in a way. And I kind of, like I said, I used to think that was kind of a cop-out, but then Ganondorf is so badass anyways that whatever. But
well,
it's
also
kind of
you
grown
think
on
about
me.
it, like
It's grown on me.
it makes total sense that Ganon would find a pawn to do his dirty work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool. So I don't know where to place this.
I don't know where to put it either.
He tried.
I don't know.
I want to say he did try the exact same thing in A Link to the Past with Aghanim,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of finding someone else, he just created his own doppelganger.
Yeah, Aghanim's like
according to the backstory. According to the backstory.
Yes, yeah. Aghanim is like an alter ego that Ganon created, which is neat. So, I'm kind of thinking just like B for this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling bad though because we have so many in B, and I always think, oh, Twilight Princess has such good dungeons. This game with some of the best dungeons, and we have like half of them so far in B. Oops.
To what Chub said, wanting to see more of like Midna's home world or homeland.
Yeah.
That seeing like a Twilight City or Twilight Town was actually planned, and they made artwork of it, and they planned it to be in the game, but the end of Twilight Princess was rushed really badly. So that is why the dungeon for the Twilight Palace is so linear, where you just go to the left, to the right, and then straight through, and then up. That's why, because a lot of it was cut. But they did have it planned for you to visit a Twilight town.
I kind of wish they had, because it's something I noticed last time I played through Twilight Princess is, like you said, the end of the game feels kind of rushed. So before this point, there's a sort of flow of the game of like, there's some stuff to do outside, and then you get to a dungeon, right? So you have to do your goat herding, you do your chores, get some Tears of Light, then you go to the Forest Temple. Then you go to Eldin Province, get the Tears of Light, then you get to do your whole march up Death Mountain, then you can go into the next dungeon. So there's this flow of things, and they kind of take it to the extreme before City in the Sky, in which they're like, okay, now you got to do this spaghetti western shootout, and then you got to go and pick up pages of a book underneath some statues that you got to move because Chad doesn't know what's going on. Now you got to fix a cannon, and like it just takes you through so much stuff, and it's like a little too much.
That is Miyamoto's fault.
That is.
Don't blame on him. That was Miyamoto's fault.
It sounds like a Miyamoto move. And then City in the Sky, but then literally for the last two dungeons, there's no pre-dungeon stuff to do. You just warp there, warp to the mirror chamber, then you go to the Palace of Twilight.
Dungeon
You can warp to
time.
Castletown,
Yeah.
go to Hyrule Castle. So it's like, for some reason, that pacing has been really consistent, and then it just drops here, and then it's just like 3 dungeons in a row. Like you can go right out of City in the Sky. You can spend 30 seconds between dungeons, go right into Palace of Twilight, and then go right into Hyrule Castle. So it's really weird, the pacing. And now, knowing that there was a Twilight Town that would have broken that pacing up a bit more, kind of breaks my heart a little, to be honest.
Right?
Because
which you can see concept art for in not Zelda Encyclopedia.
is it the art one that you're holding?
Hyrule Historia.
It's been a
Hyrule
hot
Historia.
minute since I've actually read Hyrule Historia, so maybe I have to go back and reread it and look at that.
Yeah.
But heartbreak.
To what you were saying about how Twilight Princess, it feels like such a good game, but we're ranking all of these temples really low. Look at the temples that it has to stand up to in soup tier.
That's true. In the soup tier.
Those are some strong dungeons.
That's
Look at
very
how
true.
cute Zelda is, though.
Oh, she looks great in the game. I think from a design
I love
standpoint,
Twilight Princess Zelda.
I just wish that from a characterization standpoint, she did more. She's so uninvolved.
Yep.
You know, because okay, maybe this is my bias, because like before this, you get Ocarina of Time Zelda, who's like, okay, I'm a princess, and then 7 years go by, and then secretly she's a ninja now, and you're like, oh, cool. And then next time you see her, next iteration of Zelda, she's the frickin' pirate queen Tetra, right? She's so cool. And then now you get this version of Zelda that is so wooden and personalityless and uninvolved with the story.
They give her a beautiful sword.
Yeah,
but she doesn't use it.
She doesn't use it.
With it
No,
once,
no,
and
no.
she drops it.
Yeah, she drops it. That's how she uses it.
Yeah.
The first sign of danger, she just
Well, she
drops
does
it.
use it in the boss fight when you have to fight her.
Yeah.
But then, which we'll get to in a moment.
it gets
but,
more use in
yeah.
Breath of the Wild.
But yeah, but like Tetra does stuff, and you know, like she's involved in the story. And sure, in the latter half, she kind of just like hides away for like the duration of the Wind and Earth Temple when you leave her down in Hyrule Castle. But like before
She
that,
trains.
she's like, you know, she's like catapulting the story forward, you know. And then also we have Sheik,
Apparently,
who is a ninja. Why? So cool.
and apparently, Rare had a fix for that, and Nintendo said no.
Oh, really?
Well, that weird chic Zelda game Rare had planned.
That was Retro, not Rare. Retro
Retro,
Studios.
yes, Retro, not Rare.
That's okay. All right, so Palace of Twilight. Did we land on
And
a
then-
placement for this, or are we saying B?
Yeah,
and we're good.
B.
All
B.
right. I think B is fair. B is not bad. I think it's fine.
Low B.
It's a fine dungeon. It's good. All right. This means the last one to place here is Hyrule Castle, and I think it's an A-tier dungeon. To be honest, it's got
We're
this
counting the
great-
outside of Hyrule Castle.
Sorry,
When you
The
fight
outside.
the big guy.
you fight the big guy. Yeah, that's still part of the dungeon. He's
Yeah,
like the
that's still part of
mid-boss.
the dungeon.
So like the first section is in
Okay.
the courtyards. You fight Big Bulbo Man, big ol' hammer boy. He actually talks for once. He takes off. It's great. That's the end of that character arc. So there's some closure there. I like that the courtyard section gives you a couple objectives, but you can do them in any order. So it gives you this sort of breakup of non-linear section and then linear section up to the boss fight. There's this great rising tension throughout the whole thing. Like the music builds and builds upon itself. And even though there's no dungeon item, but it's the final dungeon, that's fine. But it does find at least one use for every item except for the slingshot. But it does find a use for pretty much all your items. Even the spinner, even though it's just going up some stairs that are broken. It uses, even the Dominion Rod gets used once here. The lantern gets used, of all things. So it does find some use for dungeon items.
Intentional.
It feels like they were like, we need to find a use for all these items.
Yep.
But yeah, there's tons of dark nuts to fight. I love fighting the dark nuts in this game. They're such awesome enemies. And then of course, the boss fight is like 4 phases. And Ganondorf as a final boss, I love fighting him in this game. I think it's really great. Just wish it would go on a little longer. Yeah, I think it's not.
Which is funny because it's already such a long boss fight.
Well, yes, but like that final phase where it's just like you and him and it's a sword fight.
Yeah.
I feel like that phase of the fight specifically is too short. I would like shorten the horseback section and make more room for the sword fight section personally, but yeah, I just think it's fantastic. Also, there's a whole phase of the boss fight where for at least part of it, you get to use Wolf Link again against Dark Beast Ganon. I
also, Dark Beast Ganon has my second favorite song from all of the Legend of Zelda soundtrack.
No!
I would blast that song.
No.
That song is my theme song.
Oh, it is not good. It is not a good song. I don't know what they were doing with that one. Hold on.
That gives me an idea for the next time we all meet up.
Nice. He's gonna blast it on his. He's gonna have this stereo holding it up, blasting it.
No, but yeah, it's a great dungeon. It's a great dungeon. Are you guys arguing with my A tier placement?
No, I think for everything that's included in this dungeon, it feels like a really good way to close out the game. It has a lot of really strong points. It still doesn't feel like an S tier though.
Yeah,
right? Like
S-tier.
I can't think of what would push it into the S tier, but A feels right for it.
I agree. A feels good, and it is sort of a closure thing. Yeah, I think with this game, the only thing there's the treasure room, there where if you get all the keys, you can unlock this room right before the boss door. And it's like just got like a treasure. It feels like what it feels like to me is they were like during beta testing of the game. Often they'll like make rooms to test specific things. Bless you. And
sorry.
For example, in Wind Waker's code, you can find a beta room that's like just to test physics. So there's like different levels of like slopes and stuff, and just like ledges for Link to just like jump off of. So we're just testing like the movement, stuff like that, right? This to me feels like a beta test room that they put together just to test treasure chests, to make sure that opening treasure chests worked and getting those items worked. And then they were like, well, we'll just put that room into the dungeon. It works. Just slap it in there. Just slap. Because there's no point. It's like, why do I need water bombs right before Ganon? Like, what do I need this? Why do I need pellets for my slingshot? Who needs pumpkin seeds?
For anything, everything.
It's so weird. And then there's probably like 500 rupees in there. And it's like, what do I need this money? Maybe if you're using magic armor, you want the money. But for everything else that's in there, bombs, arrows, pumpkin seeds for your slingshot, like, it all just feels like, why is this here? This is weird. So yeah, it's it always stands out to me as like, this is a weird room. This is weird to include it. I guess it's nice, like it's like the developers being like, good job for exploring the whole dungeon. You get a little reward, but I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Jesse, tell me your thoughts about this. Tell me your feelings. Tell me why you think I'm wrong or don't.
No, there was a couple of things that made me question what you were saying.
Okay.
But for the most part, yeah. Like, the most repetitive dungeon for, like, why do we need to use this extra key or whatever, for me would be the water temple, or lake bed temple in this case, to where you have to literally go across the entire side of the map to go and open a chest full of rupees. And it's like, if you go and do it and make your way back, it's like 20 minutes out of the way. So I'm in that situation. I'm glad they at least give you somewhat of a better reason to go inside this dungeon, to where it's like, well, at least you get refills on some of your weapons and a bunch of rupees.
Right. Right.
I think the dual mini bosses are great. If you count them as mini bosses, there is Possessed Zelda, as well as Beast Ganon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would even just say that's like all part of the final boss. It's just like 4 phases, like Puppet Zelda, Dark Beast Ganon, horseback fight, and then sword fight against Ganondorf properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is also the Bokoblin King, or whatever he is.
King Boblin, who I would say he's mid-boss. Yeah. Go on.
I love the callback to Possessed Zelda from like Ocarina of Time, which is essentially like Phantom Ganon, basically, in a weird way. And then the horseback is really great. I know that is what Miyamoto said he wanted in Ocarina of Time to begin with, but the N64 wasn't able to actually do it. So I'm glad they were able to save it for the GameCube instead of forcing it into Ocarina of Time, because it would have just been crappy on the N64. Swordback combat with Ganondorf on N64. And then you get an actual sword fight, aside from the Dark Nuts from Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. It seems like the Dark Nuts are the only time you get an actual somewhat realistic sword fight. So I'm glad you get them. And then the main boss fight through all the stages of Ganondorf. The final one is a one-on-one sword combat with him, which is the feeling I think they were trying to get to with Ocarina of Time, and maybe even Majora's Mask and Wind Waker. But it seems like they perfected it with Twilight Princess.
Well, I mean,
so
not
I'm
to
glad they
discount
did that.
the apparently not major game that Wind Waker is, but the sword fight against Ganondorf at the end of Wind Waker is pretty good, honestly. I think it's really a very good final boss fight as well. But yeah.
It seems like with Skyward Sword, it seems like they finally got to the idea that they wanted to do, like a one-on-one hardcore sword combat. But with Twilight Princess, it's like they finally got to what they wanted to do, where you're defending, you're deflecting sword attacks, you're hitting with your sword, you're having to roll around, you're having to use all these different techniques that you learn as bonus techniques through the game without outside help from anyone, from what I remember. Zelda doesn't help you during that battle, right?
No, she does not, unlike Tetra in Wind Waker. Actually, a note about that is Zelda does help you during the horseback section. She uses her the bow of light to fire light arrows. And I in a recent video that I did about this dungeon, and I mentioned in that boss fight, in that phase of the boss fight, I criticized it, saying that it was annoying, in particular because Zelda has terrible aim. Like, she can't, like, half of her shots will miss, right? I quickly got corrected by people in the comments. I did not know, because nowhere in the game does it tell you this. You control Zelda's aim with the left thumbstick when she charges up. It's literally player input. But never does it actually tell you that. And so, of course I thought Zelda has terrible aim, because I didn't know that apparently I was supposed to be aiming this whole time.
So what are you on the Wii?
So what yeah, the left stick, which you're also using to move, by the way, on your horse, controls Zelda's aim for her bow during that horseback fight. And I didn't know this until like a couple weeks ago when I posted that video on my channel.
So what do you do on the Wii?
What are you asking?
You don't control the camera on the Wii.
Oh. Yeah, no.
So what do you do to aim her on the
the
Wii?
left stick. It's the same stick that you used to move. The same, yeah. So you have to control her aim and the horse with the left stick at the same time. But it is controllable.
Interesting.
I know, right? And I didn't know this. I've been playing this game for so many years. I've beaten this game so many times. And
It's almost as if Telma and the second night of Termina being attacked by aliens should have been somewhat a tutorial for this, for you to know to aim a certain way, but it doesn't tell you, like during the Telma side quest.
Well, apparently Twilight Princess's controls are more nuanced than any of us thought. Apparently.
Maybe there should have been a tutorial about this instead of 2 different tutorials about catching fish.
Or goat herding.
Or 2 different tutorials about goat herding.
Yeah. Or at least 1 tutorial and then you have to do it twice. All right, so I feel pretty comfortable with this tier listing. I think this does speak volumes to the quality of Twilight Princess dungeons overall. That nothing, not a single dungeon ended up in C or D.
I will say I love the best boss or mini boss fight, however you want to categorize it. Using Midna's hair to catch and throw down Beast Ganon is one of my favorite things in the entire game.
Good.
Because when he charges towards you, you actually, with the rumble of the GameCube controller at least, you feel Midna catching him and tossing, like struggling to toss him to the ground.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
It's fantastic.
And unless you have the expansion, the Rumble Pack for the N64, you don't feel that on any of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask's stuff. And it just feels weird on Wii. So.
Yeah. So, this is our tier list, everyone. I hope it satisfies everyone. Maybe it won't. But if you're watching this or listening
Daniel,
to this and you
before you end this,
what?
I'm sad you did not mention I'm sad you did not mention him.
Why would I mention wait, are you talking about the clown or the postman?
The postman.
Postman.
Oh, well, why he's not in any of these dungeons. He's just
I want to see you wearing those shorts.
You'll never see me wearing any shorts.
Facts. Also, those look more like tidy whiteys.
They
Just
do.
there.
They do. I think it's just the
Exactly.
angle. It's the angle. But yes, if you guys agree or disagree with our placements of these dungeons in this tier list, please do let us know if you think we're trash people with trash opinions. Well, you could keep that to yourself, but
Respectable.
Do let us know. But I do think it does speak to Twilight Princess's overall quality of dungeons. That there was nothing in C or D or nothing in C or D. Like everything was B or higher, and that's good.
Yeah.
Like that's good. And we get 2 in S tier, which usually, well, actually, our previous ones, have we had 2 in S tier before, or is it usually just 1? I'd have to look, but.
I don't have the Twitter open.
Twilight Princess is usually known for having the better dungeons.
Yeah. Actually, Skyward Sword's the only one we've had 1. When we did Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening, we had 2 in S tier. And Wind Waker had none in S tier.
Was Stone Tower Temple not S?
Sorry?
Was Stone Tower Temple not S? I had Chubas wasn't on it, or else it would have been an average C.
We still have not done the Majora's Mask dungeons, so maybe one of these days.
Good, I can't wait to do it so I can torch.
That's gonna be a time when we argue. That's gonna be it. Even, you know what? Yeah. I said before that
like the Shadow Temple was not already an argument.
That was an argument. It was great. I actually said before that, I was like, I don't know when we'll do Majora's Mask because there's only 4 dungeons, so it'll be like super short. But now thinking about it, like I think that especially Chub and myself, and probably Chub and Jesse, have very different opinions about Majora's Mask. So it actually could be a lengthy and interesting discussion that maybe we should do one of these days. So yeah, maybe we'll get to that. So. But okay, we're gonna move on from.
When are we gonna do this game?
Link's Cross Trade. Never. There's no dungeons. Actually, that's a lie. There kind of are dungeons in it. There kind of are.
There's like 4.
Kind of.
There's 4 kind of.
Kind of. All right, so. That's the end of that segment. We should move on to the mailbag so we can wrap this up in a timely manner.
Yeah.
To the community center.
Do we want to do like one question each?
I can't do any questions.
Well, I'll just ask a question on behalf.
I picked Chub. Yeah, I picked Chubs to get my question.
All right.
So let's do. Can we do 2 from the community page and then 2 from the live chat?
From the community page. And yeah, if people ask them in the live chat, that's absolutely. Okay,
live chat, this is your chance if you want to get, for some reason, your name to be mentioned by Geek. Not Geek. Geek's not on here. Daniel.
Or is she?
I was thinking of Daniel. Daniel or Chubs, who has hair like Midna. This is your chance.
All right. So, Kayla, you said you had picked some from the community tab, though.
I did pick one, and I wanted to actually bring it up because they asked it, and then Jesse was like, "What about him?" Tryboy asks, I've scoured YouTube and I have found nothing on the beggar or the padding man in Ocarina of Time Castle Town or the Kakariko Village. And Jesse wants to know what about him, and he doesn't know. He's saying it's the same character that's the banker in Majora's Mask. He's always asking me to give him something, but in every version I've played, it's impossible to give him anything. And I do know the answer to this. Although I actually had to look it up, kind of, because I knew you could give him bugs.
Yeah, I think it's just...
he would buy the bugs from you.
Pretty sure it's just anything you can put in a bottle that you can give him.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Anything that you can put in a bottle, you could just sell it to him.
Yeah.
He gives you like 50 rupees for a bug, I think, and like 150 for a fairy.
That's way too much money for a bug, man. Can you imagine?
Right? I think it is. Let me double check.
Can you imagine?
Wait, who sold him a fairy?
Oh no. Okay. No. So a fairy is 25 rupees.
Oh, okay. That's underpriced.
A bug is 50 rupees.
Why is he...
A fish is 100 rupees.
What?
And blue fire for 150 rupees.
Okay, the blue fire makes sense, but the fairy is way underpriced. Just putting that out there.
Right?
Way underpriced.
I thought it was going to be the other way around. When I read fairy for 25, I was like...
Why would the fairy be so cheap? Why would you buy a bug for more than a fairy?
You can find a bug literally anywhere. Yeah, this guy's probably never seen a fairy in his life until Link rolls up.
Chop the bush in Kakariko Graveyard and there you go.
I have a thing specifically from Chubs. But before we get to those bugs, another bug I remember from being a kid. This is before I ever looked at bugs or glitches in Ocarina of Time. You could dump a bottle of bugs onto the ground, and there'd be like 3 that fell out.
Yeah,
and you
could multiply.
Quickly scoop up another bug while there's still 2 on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. Bug hack.
So you could fill all of your bottles of bugs and just keep selling them over and over and over to the 𝗙𝗵𝗲 guy. That's what I called him, the 𝗙𝗵𝗲 guy.
Right, because he always goes, with your item, equip it to see. Yeah, anyways. You're totally right. You can multiply the bugs and just make bank that way. Not that money is hard to find in Ocarina of Time, to be honest.
I'd love to say that would 100% work for me, except every time I play Ocarina of Time, I think I only go as far as actually finding 2 bottles, and then I never go for the rest of them. Because the game forces me to get 2 bottles.
In fairness, the final one is annoying to get because that's the one you have to kill all the big Poes for, and then you get the last bottle. And I hate it.
So what's the third?
The third one? I'm trying to remember now. Where do you get the third one?
The Skulltula?
No, they don't give you a bottle.
In chat, they're saying that fairies are just magical bugs.
How dare you? Fairies are sentient. Man, would you sell Navi for 25 rupees?
Yes. You can take it for free for all I care.
Oh my gosh, no.
That's what I learned from Majora's Mask after Ocarina of Time. They're like, everyone hates fairies. What do we do to make them feel more important? Let's give them a fairy and have them collect fairies in the dungeon that turn into an important fairy that gives them a special ability.
But the fairy that they give you, make her sassy. Tattle's sassy. I would say Tattle's better than Navi, because Tattle actually has a personality. So, what?
Burned.
Well, what would you... Okay, here, true story. Really quick, what would you feel about Miyamoto's original storyline for Ocarina of Time, where there was meant to be a love triangle between Link, Zelda, and Navi?
No. No.
Unless Navi has some weird Midna curse going on, where that's not how she actually looks and she is a human form, maybe.
I don't think that... you know what? I think that idea was just ripped straight from Peter Pan. Because Miyamoto loves Disney. He already took some Peter Pan inspiration. Like, Dark Link is basically ripped right from Peter Pan. Link's shadow. And in Peter Pan, if I recall, it's not quite requited, but like Tinkerbell has like a thing for Peter, and then Peter loves Wendy,
she's jealous.
so she's like, she gets all jealous. I think it's just like ripped right from that. I think that was probably it, and that's very Miyamoto to do that.
So
let's
you
be honest.
Can go to, is it the Internet Archive?
I don't know.
Is that like the Wayback Machine? The Internet Archive?
Sure, whatever you say.
Okay, you can go to the Internet Archive in 1996 or 97, a year or two before Ocarina of Time came out. Just search it up, Zelda 64, details, whatever. You'll find the complete plot line from Nintendo themselves, where they talk about there's supposed to be a love storyline between
Hate it.
a fairy
Hate it.
and Link and Zelda.
Hate it. I honestly,
Which is really weird.
I don't even ship Ocarina of Time, Link, and Zelda to begin with. So, I'm not the Zelink shipper. Out of like 20 almost games, Skyward Sword is still the only one where I'm like, yeah, I ship Link and Zelda.
Oh, they're absolutely trying, like, they're a thing in Skyward
It's
Sword.
explicit. But like Twilight Princess, for example, that again, Zelda's so uninvolved in that story. Like, no
There's
way.
also there's like
way.
crazy power difference going on.
Oh, yeah.
Like I wouldn't even want to look at Zelda. Oh my god.
Oh, so yeah,
It seems Nintendo themselves were like, yeah, maybe we should have gone with Malon, and then that's where Twilight Princess came from.
Yeah, I think that's a more. It just makes more sense. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not the biggest Zelink shipper personally. I've always said I don't ship it.
But Jubes, you were gonna say something.
How old is Link normally?
Depends which Link. Like, it's usually like somewhere in the span of 9 to 17. So...
Oh, okay. So I was asking because there's a question in the mailbag asking if they'll ever make an older Link, like 20 to 25 years old. And well, no, I just feel creepy.
I don't know.
Well, actually, in Breath of the Wild, Link would technically be over 100.
I guess he's 117 technically.
Nice.
But he's supposed to be 17, but I guess he's like kind of like does the 100 years in stasis like count? You know, he didn't age 100 years, unlike Impa.
Also, like, how can you really base his maturity? Like,
Yeah.
It's not like anyone ever really parented him.
But okay, there's this meme I saw that was like, there's this that was
Sorry.
like, it was like dermatologists hate him. He looks 17, but he is actually 117.
Okay. So in Twilight Princess, he's 17. Then he's crossbow training.
Oh,
Oh no.
Maybe he's an adult.
sorry.
No,
I
so-
also should note that question comes from the 7th Hokage.
Yeah. So I will say, I think this comes from a few videos ago. I posted a video where there was concept art from creating a champion.
Right.
There's the same one where Link has his arm destroyed, the same page. And there's like a robotic arm, there's a robotic leg, whatever. But above that, there's completely different concept art, completely different, where he has a full mustache and beard and long grayish straggly hair.
So that's the one where he actually aged the 100 years, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Presumably.
Maybe though.
Presumably, yes.
Maybe.
Or he took some of the potion that Impa had.
Pura. Not Impa. But
Whoever.
Impa's
They're all the
sister.
same. The Sheikah.
Her
They're all the
sister.
same.
some of that blue Sheikah juice.
Yeah.
But I do think honestly
Not the blue rich juice.
an older Link isn't out of the question for me. Like sometimes like thinking about it critically, like the oldest version of Link we've seen, 100-year gap aside, is like 17 years old, right? Even though Link is like
Yeah,
in Breath of the Wild is
Twilight.
technically 117, he's still like he's a 17-year-old. Like he was asleep for the 100 years, so I don't know if it counts.
And
And
I think in Twilight Princess they did have concept artwork where
Right.
he had facial hair.
still,
But even in that, where he had facial hair, they still said that they pictured him 17.
Man, he would look
Alright.
weird with a mustache.
I actually in high school I thought I think I knew people with facial hair, but it wasn't me though. I still can't properly grow facial hair. But
No, this was just stubble on his face,
Right.
not.
right, fair enough. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think like if I thinking about it critically, like 17 at best is what we've got so far, and like it's a little weird if you think about it. Like a 17-year-old, I don't know. Like I think back to where I was at in my life at 17 years old. I don't know.
If you think in most like Japanese media, anime,
Mm-hmm.
manga,
Mm-hmm.
all of your main characters are high school students.
Yeah, and that's kind of weird, isn't it?
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is just a team of ripped teenagers.
Weird. It's weird.
Our friend Joe is in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah,
But he wasn't JoJo.
sure is. He was not Joe.
Who may be on next week.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it is a little weird. I think it is a little weird. But like a 9-10-year-old kid also saving the world, a little weird if you think about it. But
The
it's-
weight
it's
is
kind
on
of-
his shoulders.
it's kind of tragic for a kid that age to like have to go through all that stuff. You know?
What about a 9-year-old?
That's what I said. A 9-10-year-old kid.
I thought you were talking about someone like at the age of like 16, 17. Like
No, that
chronologically.
too. But I said a 9-10-year-old kid going through all that stuff it's kind of tragic in a way, right? Like so, yeah. I don't know. It's it is what it is. Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm a tree, not your real dad. But it's okay because your real dad's died long time ago. But guess what? I'm also dying.
Oh
Oh my
no.
gosh.
And you can't leave these woods because if you don't have a fairy, you'll turn into a skeleton dude.
Supposedly.
Well, I mean, the carpenter's son was there and then he wasn't. So what does that say?
Means he left. He walked off. No, actually, I saw a theory video about that a while back. That made a pretty compelling case about
I'm walking off.
basically.
Like,
um,
hey, my grandmother can cook blue mushrooms. So I'm gonna go hang out with her.
no, I mean, This was a Monster Maze video actually that he made. That was basically it was a really good video, but the idea was that the character Grog, or is what we're calling him, had basically, because like when you find him in Kakariko, he's all depressed and whatever, and then in adult form find him in the Lost Woods, and the idea was that he was like just trying to escape from his family who he doesn't get along with. And then when Link found him, he sent Link on an errand to get Link to leave because he didn't want to be discovered, and he like just took off in a hurry basically. Like there's more to it than that, and it goes way more in depth, but it's worth a watch. Definitely go watch that video.
Monster Maze,
it kind of,
if you're listening, this is your invite from Daniel.
Sure.
To come on the channel.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I thought like that changed my mind about that whole like bit of lore about Stalfos in the Lost Woods and stuff. So not a lot of theory videos actually changed my mind about something. So just putting that out there. Maybe I'm just stubborn.
Yours changed my mind, Mr.
Almost.
Burger.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean?
I have no idea what's happening anymore.
I don't know either. What's the next question, Kayla?
And it's almost my house.
What's the next question?
Am I the question person?
You're the question person.
Pick a question from my chat if you can.
The only question that was asked in the live chat was what TV shows we were watching right now.
Oh. That we're
I just
watching?
finished Castle Town for the third time.
I'm watching Star Trek Discovery.
Of course you're watching Star Trek.
Castle Rock, not Castle Town.
With
Bill Skarsgård.
I'm boring. I've been watching The Crown on Netflix.
The what?
The Crown.
Oh.
Dude.
I just finished Good Place. It was great.
The Good Place is good. It's a fun
I
show.
watched half of the first season.
Watch more.
Yeah.
Well, it's not quite up to me, but
That was a good show.
Yes.
The Good Place was a good show. Yes.
Good show.
I finished watching.
Continue, Jesse.
I was going to say Castle Town, which is based off of Stephen King, and it has Bill Skarsgård, which is always a beautiful man to look at.
Why is he protecting all of those scars, though?
Because he was in It as Pennywise, and they were like, we're making a TV show based off of a amalgamation of all of Stephen King's books, so let's just not get the guy who already played Pennywise to be the main creepy guy.
You were talking about this before we started the podcast, and we were both like, wow, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Correct. Correct.
So that was the only live chat question, unless Envy is now asking, do you guys think Link and Zelda will meet Rome and the champions in the Spirit Realm? Think Spirit Realm, like from Skyward Sword during the trials.
You know, there's nothing that we've seen to
Did he say the Skyward Sword part?
Yes.
No.
There's nothing we've seen to indicate that that's going to be the case, but I kind of really want that to happen, because I think it would be really cool. I also love this
a really
characters.
fun way to kind of connect it all together.
Yeah. I agree. I really like those characters. I want to see more of them all the time, even if they're just ghosty guys. You know, the ghost gang.
Yeah, I think Rome.
Step on his NDA.
I do not get NDAs from Nintendo.
I'm just bugging you.
I think spirits will appear outside of Hyrule in the same way they did in Breath of the Wild 1.
The way that he's saying this feels like an actual prediction.
It does.
No,
It very much does.
it'll be the same way we met Rome in Breath of the Wild 1, which had nothing to do with divine beasts or anything. It was just him outside of a spirit realm, whatever. He might appear the same way in Breath of the Wild 2.
All right.
That is my guess.
It's so vague, but you might be right. You might be right. You might be right.
It's really fun. I hope that we do get to see them in some way. I'm not sure how, but that would be a fun way to do it. Natsu asked a question in Discord.
Great.
Let me find it.
Great. Discord is good core.
I never know how to use this Discord. Why are there so many channels to click through? Here it is. Oh, I'm already on it. Natsu asks, do you think people might be setting themselves up for slight disappointment with Breath of the Wild 2? After all the years of speculation and theories, there might be a lot of people that are too hyped for things that might not happen. By no means do I think this will be a bad game, I just think there's a strong possibility of overhypeness. And actually, I want to say too that the last time I was on the podcast, not last week, but the week before, so I was dead last week apparently, I think I'd actually mentioned that about how my fear is that we have put too much pressure on Breath of the Wild 2, and then it's not going to live up to our expectations. And I think Daniel immediately was like, no.
That's possible. That's possible. I don't know. I have to go back and listen to it now, because I don't know if I would just say no or shoot you down like that, but I feel like...
No, I don't think you actually just said no, but...
Like, I worried I overhyped the first game for myself, and it met every expectation, or almost.
Yeah.
I it's my favorite game, until the sequel comes out, probably. But I do think you're always going to have people, pretty much any game, any new game, you're always going to have people who are going to overhype it, I think. And a good example is I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, so I'm not going to say who, but I was in a live stream recently, not my own. I was watching someone else's live stream. It wasn't anyone that's here. And there were other people in the chat talking Breath of the Wild 2 predictions. And I think those people definitely were overhyping it. I think they were... And they were coming out with these very wild speculations that were absolutely just enormous reaches, like, and leaps in logic. And I had to explain to them the principle of Occam's razor, which is the principle whenever you're doing any theorizing or anything, the principle that whatever solution or whatever answer requires the fewest assumptions is probably the correct one. And so basically, the more stuff you have to assume, the less likely that's going to be correct. And you know, it was just really ridiculous. Like, not throwing it under the bus. I know they're just fans. They're excited. It's okay to be excited, but like, you need to also be kind of realistic, and like, and you also have to, whenever you're theorizing or speculating about anything, you have to be prepared to be wrong. You always have to be ready to be wrong. And as someone who's worked on like Zelda theories and stuff like that, like that's always the mindset I have to go in it with all the time is, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. And that was not the mindset these people had, because, you know, they were like spitballing these very specific ideas about what characters are going to be here and doing what, and having this very specific conversation and this very specific storyline. And I'm like, there's nothing we've seen in these trailers to indicate that any of this is going to happen. Where are you getting this from? And because they're met with that opposition, they immediately get defensive and hostile. And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to be realistic, because you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Because what you're saying right now, I would say we've seen nothing to indicate that that's the story. And often with Nintendo, the simplest explanations are the correct ones when it comes to their stories and stuff. So it's like, yeah, hype responsibly, but everyone is you're all responsible for your own level of hype. I really think that you are. Like, you no one is to blame but yourself if you get overhyped for a game. I really believe that. So, you know, hype responsibly.
Exactly. And there are like different things to be hyped up about. You know, there's the hype of it being you know, another game for Breath of the Wild and where that's going to go, and having the ideas of, you know, Link and Zelda and where that's going to go and what their adventures are going to be. But also the things that we know, like climbing through the ground and what's going on with the sword. Like, there are so many current knowns that I think that we can be excited enough about. I don't, yeah, Burger's right. Hype responsibly. Like,
Yeah.
like set your expectations, and then have, you know, hopefully those expectations are going to get blown out of the water.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to be excited for things, and it's just, you have to, you always have to be prepared to be wrong. You always have to be prepared for it not to be what you're expecting, unless it's something Nintendo is specifically showing. Like, if what you're expecting is an outfit in the game where Link's one shoulder is exposed, he's wearing the chitin outfit, then that's a reasonable expectation, because that's something we've seen. If you're expecting there to be gameplay that takes place in a sky area, that's a reasonable explanation. Expectation, because we've seen that. They've shown us that. They've promised us that. But expecting things like there's going to be this huge time loop conspiracy plot line that involves demise and you're going to become the ancient hero. We have not seen anything to indicate that. We have not. And I think it's okay to speculate, as long as you go in with that mindset of, I'm speculating, and not like if you're thinking like, this is a cool idea I would like to see happen, versus these people that I was chatting with who were like, this is what the story is going to be. I really think that's 100% it. And it's like, you're going in with such a narrow mindset. You always have to have an open mind.
Which is all fine, but at the end of the day, like, at one point do you begin writing, you know, fan fiction about a video game that you really like?
Yes,
right?
There's always fan fiction.
There's a community for it. If you really want this to be a thing, write a fan fiction, right?
According to some, the community for that is 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 games.
Oh gosh.
It's true because of the interview.
That's so funny.
I first read an interview and I messaged Daniel and I was like, "Hey Daniel, read this for me."
There you go.
it was literally 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗀 and 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃 in an interview saying like, yeah, we just told him to play. They didn't send him anything. Like the director of Age of Calamity, whatever, the producer, they didn't send him anything. They literally told him, play Breath of the Wild, get your story from that. And they didn't like tell him anything at all. They were just like, play our first game, make whatever you want from that.
Yeah, but we got egg.
All right.
We got egg out of it, so.
Now I understand. Someone else had just said, where is it?
That Age of Calamity was just a really long fan fiction. Is that what you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chicken nugget.
Yeah. Great username. By the way, great username. Great username.
So, Age of Calamity technically, literally is legal fan fiction.
That is so funny.
From a certain point of view,
Where,
like, yeah. I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. The game is fun. I enjoy it. I don't think it's gonna have any bearing on the plot to the sequel at all.
No.
But
no,
yeah.
Otherwise, they would have told him this is the story instead of being like, "We're not going to tell you anything. Play the game yourself. Figure out what you think is going to happen."
Yeah. Wild.
Anyways, I would like to let be the last question.
All right. I apologize for my
in that case,
preaching here, but
what?
How are you, Chips?
What, Burger?
Oh, I apologize for getting preachy.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's okay.
I feel strongly about things sometimes.
It's okay.
So
that is A-okay. Jesse really wants to know who I am. He's giving me
you have that midnight hair. Who are you?
What does that mean? My hair isn't orange.
It's definitely pink. It's definitely pink.
It's like today, I showed Morph my bike, and I was like, Morph, look at this cool bike I bought. And he's like, wow, That bike's way more blue in person than I thought it was going to be. Morph is colorblind. The bike is purple.
Maybe you were colorblind.
Today I learned that Morph was... I didn't know that about him, actually. I had no idea.
No, I could be. Everyone else sees my hair as a different color than I do.
It's pink, though, right?
It might be me.
I'll say, like, it's pink, except the Snapchat you sent me earlier with your cat.
Definitely orange.
It looked orange, and I think it was just whatever filter you were using.
It's the filter.
Yeah, but aside from that, it's totally pink. So, I don't know.
Anyways, you guys can find me on Twitter at 𝗍𝗵𝗲, on my Twitch at twitch.tv/𝗍𝗵𝗲 with an extra A, and also my YouTube channel. I post VODs on it when I remember to at youtube.com/𝗍𝗵𝗲. I think that's probably how that works. And I have been a little bit busy, so I haven't been streaming. We're currently playing through Twilight Princess. When I have time, I would like to resume my regular Tuesday, Thursday morning. But things are going to be chaotic until about July, so we'll see. And also on the podcast.
But only sometimes.
but only sometimes. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Remember, she can't be here if Geek is here.
Right.
It's not
Right.
allowed.
That's the conspiracy.
Waluigi bike.
The Waluigi. It is a Waluigi bike, though. The colors perfectly match.
Yeah. I'm confused. Normally we would ask Jesse last because he's not the one pressing end.
Oh,
because
right.
he's normally the one pressing end, but now he isn't, so Jesse, I think you have to go.
I don't know.
I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, as a few of you may know me. Everything is at Game Over Jesse or /Game Over Jesse, GAMEOVERJESSE, not IE, not EE, not whatever, just E. I am lucky enough to have gotten that on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. I'm sure if you look it up, it's either me or someone who's pretending to be me, which in either case, they're probably doing a better job than I actually am. So, credit goes to them. Give them a follow as well, or follow me. But most importantly, Daniel, hi, how are you?
What do you mean, most importantly? What do you mean?
I mean,
I'm not the game over guy. I'm just a small
but
potato.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this would not be happening if you were not streaming.
I'm sure I could figure it out terribly.
I guess that's technically.
Yeah, I'm sure Tubes could. Tubes could do
yeah,
it,
Jesse. Jeez.
I think both of you have access to the YouTube channel, but currently.
I guess that's true. In a sense. No, but I'm Daniel. All of my socials are 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃. That's 𝐶APTBURGERSON. As in, there's the captain, who is my dad, and I am a burger. Or he's a burger, and I'm his son. Burger Son. 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃. You can find links to all of that, as well as all of Kayla's stuff, and all of Jess's stuff, and also Geek, who's not here. It's all in the video description, so feel free to go check it out. I also make videos about Zeldas and Zelda dungeons and Zelda characters and various things. It's mostly Zelda stuff. So it's a good time. Go check those out if you like. I know it's small potato compared to Jesse's 100,000 plus sub count, but I just hit 2,000 subs on my YouTube channel. I'm very happy about that. It's very good. And I stream twice a week, every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time and every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. And Wednesdays are Zelda days and Saturdays are whatever else I feel like. So it's a good time. We're chill. We come out. Apparently my viewers play bingo and try and predict what I'm going to say and do. And it's a good time. Yeah. So that's the end of me. That's the end of the show, folks. So I want to say thank you for everybody for tuning in and watching. We have like 58 people or something watching now, which is kind of incredible considering what we've been talking
we're
about.
Weird.
Considering everything that we've said about hands and various things. So have yourselves a good rest of your Thursday night, and appreciate you all. And we're all terrible at ending these here videos, so gonna just hit the button now. Bye, everybody.